Hello and welcome back to the Dark Pixel Podcast. My name is Mike.
I am Landon.
And I'm Kason.
All good things must come to an end. And on this episode of our podcast,
We're retiring.
it comes...
We're done.
Well, that too, I guess. But I will no longer be wearing goggles and masks on the podcast. I don't want to buy them anymore. That's mainly why.
I think you've gone through just about every facial costume piece that we have.
Yeah.
Can't keep that up forever, dude.
Yeah.
If you want to see masks, just go rewatch all the old podcasts. Rewatch them all.
We could CG track a mask on, but...
We were talking about doing that with Cloud's face, remember? Like,
just
for a whole podcast,
2D,
track
like a cutout of someone's face.
Kind of like the Snapchat
That would
thing.
No. That'd be stupid.
For an hour.
That would have to be a very
That would
special occasion.
Yeah, that would take a long time.
Today we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch's launch lineup, and actually a lot more about it. Quotes from Randy Pitchford, who's from Gearbox, from Reggie on shortages, and just a bunch of other stuff. But
Yeah.
Zelda leak, a bunch of other Nintendo Switch topics that we haven't yet talked about.
We will not reveal the Zelda leak, however. We'll just state
sorry about that.
it is leaked.
If you thought that we were going to talk about it, I didn't mean that. I just mean it has been leaked, and we will talk about the fact that it has been. We're not going to tell you guys anything about it. Nioh.
A lot of Switch stuff.
Nioh, the game that's coming out here in February, similar to kind of like Dark Souls, right? A lot of people make that comparison. Apparently, the developers are saying that it's a gateway game to the next Ninja Gaiden, that they are wanting to lay low with Ninja Gaiden for a while.
Yeah.
So, talk about that for a bit. And then we have 3 really good topics from the viewers. First one, what are 3 popular video games that you never really liked? From Michael Pettis. What memories do you have with local multiplayer couch co-op, Mr. Ultimate? Do major RPG companies take ideas, mainly story and character ideas, from budget games like Undertale, Lisa, Yume Nikki, Off, One Shot, which all have powerful emotions in them that major RPGs miss lately?
Interesting.
And how would you feel about them remaking one of those great budget titles into a
one of those great
big budget titles? One of those great budget titles into a big budget, maybe title. Not a AAA game. Okay. I see where you're going with that.
Quite the question.
Well then,
Nintendo Switch.
The Nintendo Switch. So, the launch lineup, it was so tough after watching the Switch reveal to tell, like, hey, what's coming, what can I buy when the Switch comes out? Like, which of all these games, because the only one it looked like was Breath of the Wild, and maybe 1-2 Switch. And turns out, like, that's about it. They have 5 games at launch that are available to be purchased.
Those 5
What
being
are they?
1-2 Switch.
1-2 Switch.
Which should have been bundled. I will not stop saying that. It should have been bundled with the system.
Yeah.
I know they said they didn't want to do any bundles. They've explicitly said they did not do a Zelda bundle because they were trying to be conscientious of price on this
keep
thing.
The price below $300.
Yeah. But, so anyways, 1-2 Switch could have easily been bundled. It would not have been a big hit on there. That game could not have taken that much R&D.
Right.
Just Dance 2017, Breath of the Wild, Skylanders, Imaginators, and Super Bomberman R.
Super Bomberman.
There's your day one. Now the thing is,
really,
there's one game. There's one day one game that you even can be thinking about purchasing.
That's day one. There are things that come out still within that first month.
Yeah, by the end of March, I think there's going to be another
couple more
2 or so.
And then there are releases planned for at least the next couple months.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll have a month without a Switch software release until maybe midsummer.
Until midsummer, yeah.
Which is not unusual for
Nintendo.
midsummer anyways. Yeah, not planned. It's mostly because we don't know what month Splatoon's coming out.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard June, but the official, what they're saying is just summer. So it could even come out in August or September. And that would be very upsetting for me to have to wait that long.
Why is this such a small version of that? Not this one.
That makes it look like there's tons of stuff coming.
I Am Setsuna. That's right. I Am Setsuna will be in March.
the same month.
Yeah, it will come out that month.
Snipper Clippers, which I've heard from everyone who has played that game that it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the early DS games when the DS first came out and people were just using the touchscreen for the first time.
And Brain Age and
Brain
stuff.
Age, all those fun little
pretty creative
games.
So and then April, all that's listed right now for April is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is
that's the end of it.
They've confirmed there will be no more tracks.
No new tracks. Possibly a new character too. I know the Splatoon characters, I think, are going to show.
Yeah. Did they add any new functionality? Like any new
battle mode? The different battle mode.
there's a new battle mode.
In the early Switch video, they showed a Mario Kart where they were like flipping items or something.
I don't think
that's not what they were showing.
I don't.
This is not what's being. That. So that looked more like what I thought it was, which was Mario Kart 9.
Yes, exactly. What I've seen from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is that it's Mario Kart 8. It's no different.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, what they showed in the reveal in October was
not
Switch
Mario
items.
Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah, it looked different.
Because that's the whole Switch thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like Switch. You're switching
Mario
the
Kart
items.
Switch.
I swear that was a different game than Mario Kart 8
And
Deluxe.
correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe they added that. I don't believe they did.
I'm looking here real quick just to see if we can see anything in the game.
Yeah, it appears to be a straight port of Mario Kart 8, which some people are upset about, but because Mario Kart 8 sold extremely well. Like, everyone who had a Wii U had Mario Kart 8, so it's not like this game didn't sell 8 million copies. It did. It did extremely well.
The problem, the early adopters for the Nintendo Switch are mostly going to be hardcore Nintendo fans, right? That's basically a given.
Yeah.
You can also say that the people who bought the Wii U were more likely to be a hardcore Nintendo fan than not. Right.
Yes, the likelihood is there. Totally.
Which means that there's probably a ton of overlap between this initial Switch ownership
Switch right away,
and then the initial Wii U ownership, and so many people, like you're saying, bought Mario Kart 8 that it's just like they're not showing the game view, so I'm not 100% sure why.
Maybe that's why Mario Kart 8 Deluxe doesn't come out till the end of April. That's when I'm sure there will be a new shipment of Switch units by then, and they won't be sold out everywhere by the end of April. At least I would imagine that they won't be.
Yeah, that's...
Not the way they will be in March.
Anyways, somebody's walkthrough. I love it. I love it. The keywords that people try and ape on YouTube. Put walkthrough on basically anything. It couldn't possibly be a walkthrough for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
You can't do a walkthrough of a game.
Look at how many likes it has, though.
Yeah, everyone just loves this walkthrough.
See how walkthrough it is.
So it doesn't appear to be that game that we saw. And that's disappointing, but at the same time, seeing how Smash Brothers hasn't been announced yet, or
he is perfectly blocking that section.
It is nice to have some more games.
They're showing those two items. They showed it for a second.
So you can't do that in Mario Kart 8, though, right?
No.
So this game does allow.
So at least you can do that
for 2 items.
Yeah.
This definitely is the game that they were showing in that area.
Then this would be it. Okay. Then this isn't Mario Kart Switch. Why didn't they call it Switch? Mario Kart 8 Switch?
Well, because I guess that would sound like it should be probably more different than it really is.
Mario Kart 8 Switch.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Okay, so it is the game that we saw.
Yeah.
It is that game.
Yes.
Which is cool. So I guess they did add some things. I don't know that we'll be buying it, but...
No, I love Mario Kart 8, but Mario Kart 8 is a phenomenal game.
We don't need to buy it with
Mario Kart 8, so the only thing would be if you wanted to play Mario Kart 8 in a random park or back alley somewhere, or on an airplane.
The back alley. Right now. Everyone's going to be playing Switch in the back alley.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like in the middle of the night on the basketball court under the freeway.
That's right. You stop playing basketball to play Switch.
Yeah. Or stop playing basketball to play a basketball video game. Which
exactly.
Is what they did.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. We were talking about esports just in general, and when is an actual video game going to become an esport? And when is the Staples Center going to sell out an arena to watch people play NBA 2K and not actually NBA players playing basketball? It will happen one day. I don't know when. It may not be for a while.
Even more meta than that. When will there be a video game where you play as a person who's participating in an esports league playing a MOBA or something? And it's like a life sim, and you're like managing the teams, and
that'll happen. Hilarious.
I wonder if
the guys who made Game Dev Story could do that.
That's
Game
true.
devs. Oh, Kairosoft. Yeah.
Microsoft.
Oh, that'd be. I wonder if super famous like NBA players play just normal life sims when they're bored
because their life is so extravagant.
They're already playing NBA. They don't need that game, but they might want a sim for like all the regular people. You know, somebody should make that and market it just.
There's
to
a
the
market
rich
for that. There's
athletes.
about 1,000 people.
Yeah, there's a few thousand pro athletes. Anyways, so yeah. What are your thoughts after a few days now about the presentation? Now that it's been
I definitely
almost a week.
see that. Like, I wish there was that Wii Sports type game that was an obvious draw. I just don't see that with 1-2 Switch. The big problem with 1-2 Switch is, like, theoretically, some of these things are things you could do without the console at all. I read an interview on Forbes, I believe it was, where they were talking about Nintendo's design philosophy, and they were saying they wanted to make a console where even if you only had one console, you could play with multiple people. So, like, if some kid has a 3DS, that's a one-person experience no matter what way you look at it. No matter what. The Switch is obviously, like, it could be multiple people and you don't have to buy two consoles.
A portable system being multiplayer like that, I mean, that is genius because people are going to see you walking around playing Switch, and instead of like, get your own, it's like, no, you can play this
play with me right now.
That's genius.
Which is a big thing, but the other end of that was they wanted to make games that did not require, like, the games where you could play, like, their example is poker. It's like you are staring at your opponent, right? Mm-hmm. And that direct human interaction, but still a video game. How would a video game fit in that application? And I guess short of like AR, what they're doing here with 1-2 Switch is probably the only, for the most part, the only way you could do that. There's probably something you could do with smartphones, but I feel like an AR type thing would probably be a little better. Again, this feels a little bit like, I don't know. It's a lot of it's just stuff you could do in real life, and a lot of it's also just weird stuff. Like, people enjoy bowling. Like, bowling's fun. Most people enjoy bowling. I know a couple people that don't, but so you show someone like Wii bowling.
People who suck at bowling don't.
Yeah, sure. But you show someone Wii bowling, and it's like, oh, sick. It's just satisfying. Like, knock over those pins, right? Or do the 100-pin challenge.
That's so.
That was super fun.
Yeah,
but I don't know. 1-2 Switch. It's like you can eat more sandwiches. Who could milk more milk out of a cow, which is like,
I'm sure
they had to scrape the bottom of the barrel for ideas if they took the cow.
But I'm sure the feeling, the weird like kimochi,
which almost makes it worse. Yeah,
weird, makes it worse. This like it really feels like an organic thing because of their haptic whatever.
I'm sure that comes into play.
I'm sure they just pick something kind of gross that you can feel it with the controller.
It might as well have been like ketchup bottles or something. Like, could you squeeze more ketchup? I don't know.
Yeah, that's not as gross.
And then what? The quick draw, and then the table tennis one is a little interesting to me actually, because if the haptic thing and the audio could make that feel like
that actually could be.
How
really
can you play table tennis?
Yeah, where you don't see
the
ball.
ball?
So what they do is there's timing differences. So you choose what kind of you're doing, like a smash or just like a regular like lob, and it sounds different. And so you have to hear.
Did you guess?
Well, you don't guess the location, you guess the timing. So it's like if they smashed, it's this
quicker.
much time after
then
you hear
you
the
have
sound.
to react quicker.
If it was a slow hit, then it's a little longer after you hear the sound. So
weird.
You're mixing those up to try and throw somebody off.
I'd love to try it, but that doesn't sound like something I'd
Oh, well, I know. Again, it's like
none of these do.
I don't know. It's like SpongeBob getting his cardboard box out and sitting in it with Patrick, and amazing things happen because you've got your imagination going. But if you're just not into that, if you're the Squidward who comes walking along, this looks like a lot of fun. What are you guys doing? Like, and then you explain it, and it's like,
oh.
What? Like, I feel like the Wii stuff was so much easier to get than like 1-2 Switch.
It's tennis, it's bowling, it's
And I guess
it's weird to me that the feature that they're trying to explain to people with a game is HD Rumble. It's like, people need to get this. This is the thing about this system, and it's like, is it going to be that big of a difference, really, in like the way people design games? I just don't see that. I really don't.
I've heard it both ways from people that have tried it. Some people saying this is sick, it's a real deal. And is this going to be a big difference maker?
It could.
Other people saying like, I don't care.
It could be that it is really sick. I anticipate it will be. Like,
But
I anticipate
how many
being
games
like,
are going to use it?
wow, that's a really cool feature.
Right.
But it is not like a central game design changing sort of thing.
Right.
Like the Wii was. Like, I'm going to, instead of pressing a button, like have swing my arm, aim,
Right.
But this is like how you feel impact on something. And that's not like... I think of all the things game designers are like stressed out about, adding a feature like that has got to be really low on the list of priorities.
Yeah, I don't expect to see it often.
It's weird.
In a
They're
similar
pushing it like
vein,
that.
I feel like haptic feedback is something people could get more excited about because everyone knows what it's like to use a touchscreen, and there's this detached kind of feeling you get, even though they use animations to try and emphasize. And sometimes there's a general rumble. But yeah, if there's really good haptic feedback, if it actually felt like you pushed a button on the screen, that would be a bigger deal. Like, to me, I think there could be some applications for that versus, you're saying, the controllers is a little
which is, it is cool though. Like, I agree. It's so cool. I just don't see, I don't see it being used.
Yeah. So
I'd love to be able to feel all the things I'm doing.
All the cow udders.
Yeah, well, I don't want to feel like
I imagine
I would try that. I'm just
that it would be really cool if I don't know, let's just say, we talked about in the previous podcast, like the differences between guns when you fire them.
Yeah,
that's cool. It's like, oh, that's really awesome. But does that really change the game?
Right.
It's
no,
like,
not at all.
I think initially it's like, oh, that's a really cool thing. I feel like I'm more immersed in it. But if the game is still designed badly, that won't make it any better or worse.
Right.
So it's an emphasis on something that can be supplemental, like an icing on the cake, just like an extra layer of awesome immersion, a tool that can help with that.
And something that no one's doing. No one else is doing it, at least.
Yeah.
But if that's going to, say, drive the cost of your system up to such an extent that you can't bundle a game, or that you take a hit in other areas that maybe people are expecting more out of, it makes me wonder where their priorities lie in hardware design.
That is actually a good question, because I don't know how expensive like Rumble is to implement, like in phones right now. That's just a regular Rumble, not an HD. But
the
depends
HD
on
Rumble seems
like how many different separate motors do they have? What space does that take up? Does that condense other electronics so that they can fit them?
Somehow they packed those Joy-Cons with
those
like
Joy-Cons are actually
imaginable.
some of the craziest little compact pieces of technology. Yeah, it's pretty
wild,
nuts,
man.
with the infrared thing, all the IMUs, and the HD
gyro,
Rumble,
the Rumble.
Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff in there.
They're so small.
It's hard to imagine what else they could possibly include in something like that. Like, what else would you possibly
One thing that I've heard is that the Joy-Cons are like way more responsive than even Wii Motion Plus was. They're really intuitive, and it works. It's just the tech has been way improved.
I honestly feel like that is more exciting in an overall design perspective than the HD Rumble, because I think the Wii was just even a little bit slightly ahead of its time. It just wasn't quite there yet for a lot of people. Like, I played Shattered Memories with Christine on our live streams the last few weeks, and there were certain sections where it's like, this would have been really cool to be picking up these things for puzzles and kind of turning them and stuff, but you can't really do it. Like, anytime you swing the controller and it loses
the tracker,
it just stops, and you can't really like twist it or make it feel like you have a lot of control over it, and it can be very frustrating. And I think motion controls that don't rely on a tracker could be much, much, much better one-to-one sort of movement. Now, like, I remember playing Metroid Prime 3 for the first time, and like when you're in the cockpit and you like pick up and sort of like twist and pull stuff out. Like, I remember that feeling like, oh man, this is really cool. I feel like, and you would do that with the doors too. You'd insert, you'd twist and pull them open.
Silent Hill had some stuff like that too, didn't it?
Yeah, but I think the Wii controller was just, its reliance on trackers made it impossible to really have a really intuitive sort of like, it feels good to do that kind of thing.
Which was supposed to be the Wii Motion Plus idea
that got closer.
So much more.
It got closer, but you would still, with any large movements, you would lose it off the screen, and you would get your pointer would turn red, and then you'd have to try and recenter again. And I think
that's
something
immersion breaking.
that can, without having to reference something in front of it, you can turn it in any direction. If this is how this works, I don't know if it is, but it would still work. I think that motion controls would all of a sudden be much more appealing, and if utilized correctly, could be in a lot of ways more intuitive and better than a traditional controller. So let's see them show us something with that, like show how far that's come.
That's tough to advertise.
Arms is what's supposed to be showing.
Arms should be
that.
showing that. I've heard from a lot of people that have said playing Splatoon 2. They have not had to recalibrate, which occasionally you would have to do. But the gyro controls on the Wii were actually very, very, very good.
Yeah.
Did not use a sensor bar for that. It came with a sensor bar if you were going to use Wii stuff.
Right.
Didn't use the sensor bar.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing about.
It's nice.
They're totally getting there. I think it was just a matter of packing more IMUs in. You get more IMUs in there, and you can account for that drift and the error and everything.
I think the best feature to have come, or the best application to have come from motion controls is gyro aiming. That to me is the one thing where when I experienced that, I was like, I never want to go back ever to using a joystick to aim or a mouse. This to me is the best way. I am the most accurate. Now we've had some people in our comment section who say they have certain physical ailments where they can't really do it that way, but that's the great thing about the Switch is that you still can use traditional. They're not
even
forcing
arms
it on
will
you.
work without the motion.
I think Nintendo's learned from that, and that's good. But I'd like to see the next step for other kinds of applications of motion controls that work as well for me as gyro aiming on the Wii U or the 3DS did.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that that's what is making virtual reality work at all right now, is that type of
the
gyro control. So whenever I see anybody ripping on the Wii and a gimmick of motion controls, it's like a gimmick is just a feature that you don't see a useful application for, right? Yeah, and so in VR, there's absolutely useful application for that type of control scheme. It's necessary if we're going to keep doing this. Unless you're doing what they do at the Void with the freaking hand tracking thing, which is even more like crazy voodoo magic.
Wild.
We did, you guys may have seen this video, but we went through a VR experience last summer at a local company. They're called The Void. They're going to be opening VR entertainment centers all across the world. Yeah. And you wear, the biggest thing is you're wearing like a really heavy computer basically.
And your head, the set on your head.
The headset's very heavy.
Massive,
I still haven't had a VR experience that made me even a little bit want to go and purchase a VR headset. It's so much money. But they track your hands. Like there's you're not wearing gloves. You are not wearing gloves. There's some kind of LiDAR type thing or infrared.
Cameras everywhere too.
They've got position tracking cameras everywhere, and then so you just use your hands and grab things. It's really cool.
It didn't work very well for you. Yours wasn't calibrated.
Mine wasn't.
Mine was. And eye-fetching reached out and grabbed a torch, and that was the craziest thing ever. I was like, what the freak? I didn't have to feel for it or I just reached out and grabbed it. I was
just
like,
snagged it.
Oh, fetch. Wait a second. That worked. And that was cool, but there are other problems with
there's a lot of problems,
the limitations of the Void. Really,
the weirdest thing, so the Void, in order to fit lots of rooms to make a complex, to actually make it profitable, they make it so that you're not in a large space. You're essentially in a corridor that curves, but because you're essentially blindfolded, you feel like you're walking in a straight line, but it's curving. Which is cool, but obviously they can't have you walk upstairs because you would totally biff it and break their headset.
Stairs,
or whatever.
maybe ramps. But
There's just a lot of weird limitations to VR, which is why I feel so much more excited about any AR type application at this point. I actually feel like Apple is going to be coming out this year with some AR something.
Yeah,
that's what the rumors are.
Microsoft's
right now.
HoloLens is getting pretty.
HoloLens are pushing heavier. There's so much
AR.
application there, and it gets. We've had this whole discussion already. But motion controls, they work really well for VR, and they're only getting better. And so, to anyone who feels I don't know, I would feel that these Switch controllers could work.
Oh, very well.
As good motion controls.
And the HD Rumble, if you are doing VR or AR, would supplement so well in that type of environment where you can actually feel things that you're doing. That would be so cool for that. But there's still a big question as to whether or not the Switch will do VR. And even if it does, it's 720p.
Yeah.
It's not quite high res enough. But with gyro stuff, it can do it.
It would almost have to be another console.
Yeah.
I mean, like another Nintendo console.
Right.
Or like the power enhancing aspect.
Which apparently... Yeah, apparently... I don't know. This is a very recent rumor, but people are thinking that the Switch may, at some future point, include another dock that you can buy that would essentially be like the PS4 Pro, but instead of having to buy a whole new system, you just buy a new dock, and it can upscale to 4K, and the dock will actually have some computing power, the way other people had been a lot of the older rumors were saying. That's still a possibility with the Switch. Mm-hmm. And apparently a Foxconn employee is saying that is going to happen. It is still definitely going to happen. And it'll be way cheaper than buying a whole new system.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's interesting because I've read some people looking into that saying like it's so much more complicated, depending on what that would entail. It's so much more complicated to program for like 2 GPUs than it is for just whatever's on board.
In that sense, the dock would probably just be an upscale thing. It probably wouldn't do much more than that.
Yeah, that's interesting. The biggest complaint I'm seeing from people about Breath of the Wild right now is texture filtering. So like what we noticed as that edge, because texture filtering is essentially in every 3D application, they have to have an algorithm that accounts for what textures look like at like extremely oblique angles.
Yeah.
So you can, a lot of times the simplest version of that is they'll just fuzz it out. And that's not because the texture's so far away that they don't want to have a high-res texture. That's because at that angle, that's how they're handling the texture. Mm-hmm. And so as you approach something, you're not at such a narrow angle, you get a more straight down, and then they don't have to do any weird texture filtering because it's dead on enough that it's representative of what the original image was.
Yeah.
So
but often
in Breath of the Wild,
see
the big
right
thing
where
now,
that switch
exactly,
happens.
you can see the exact edge where they're switching their texture
It's
filtering.
like a line, 2 lines, distinct lines in the ground.
They're near, far, and then
wherever you are,
mid-range. So it would be nice if there was something that could at least help with problems like that, and not because like that's only going to look worse upscaled to 4K. Really,
I'm so sad that I saw that because I'm going to see it
all the time
in the game all the time.
I have heard that playing the Switch in handheld mode actually, like, it doesn't look better in terms of resolution, but it feels better and there's less frame drops, and it does look better, just not in a resolution sense. And that may be because you're not noticing that line anymore.
Yeah. Have we heard from anybody whether or not the fan ever operates in handheld mode?
I haven't heard a thing about that.
Or if it only operates in docked mode.
I haven't heard a thing about that.
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
I haven't heard anyone talk.
It's going to be nice to have a system that's not spinning a disc, though, finally.
Yes. Oh, man. So, apparently the story for Breath of the Wild, not the entire story, just the... what would they call it? The backstory for Breath of the Wild has been leaked. Mm-hmm. And we were watching a Game Explain video talking about the Switch, and they were saying that they saw something they were not supposed to see. Mm-hmm. I think that Nintendo, instead of like for the E3 demo that we played, they created a specific game. Like on the disc, there was only certain info, and they took out all the cities and everything, and you couldn't go certain places. I don't think they did that for this latest demo. And people literally, they just put people in a place where they didn't think you could get far enough in the allotted time period.
And then you get some dude
who
apparently just like puts it in one direction.
Apparently people did get to a certain place that a cutscene, or they met someone who told them something happened, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I have not read the leak because I don't
You're
want
not telling
to
us,
read the leak.
You're not telling us that it's all built on the back of a turtle.
No.
You don't want anyone to know that the whole world's on the back
I'm not
of
telling
a turtle.
everyone that. But anyway, so it got leaked, and apparently, because the Game Explain guys were saying, "Oh, we're not going to tell anyone. They're going to be cool about it." Other people must have seen this in that case because it's out. Like the story is out now. So be careful. I actually yesterday, after I saw news that the backstory had been leaked, that's when I decided I am no longer following Breath of the Wild until it comes out. I took it off my Google alerts. I'm unfollowing some people on YouTube and Twitter and people who typically leak things, who it's fine and fun when leaks happen well before a game has really been revealed for what it is. But that trailer that we watched just a few days ago at the Switch presentation was phenomenal. It was perfect. It didn't give away too much. And I feel like that is where I want to be. Like, I want to go from that trailer to playing the game. I don't want more than that. I feel like that's enough. I finally am like satiated in my quest for knowing everything about that game. And I'm done. And I suggest if you're sensitive to spoilers, you do what I did and kind of black out any media for Zelda for the next 6 weeks.
6 weeks, man. That's
6 weeks.
Crap leaks so early nowadays.
It does. Yeah. It does. That was the Nintendo's
In
own
my
dang fault.
days, things didn't leak until the day before.
Yeah, it sucks to have to go out like this and to, so early on, but at least the game's coming out March 3rd, not March 17th, so we're 2 weeks earlier than I thought I'd have to wait, and I'm okay with it now. I'm okay with where everything's at.
You won't need as much food in your bunker because it's coming out 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, I can start feasting. Every few days I can sneak a little more. Anyway, so yeah, be cautious. But I don't know that there's much more to say about that because we are purposefully not learning what the leak was.
Yeah, I would be pretty upset, especially after having...
I'm so excited for this game.
Especially after having Final Fantasy 15's plot leaked to me
about the same amount of time.
About a month before it came out as well. Because, we're moderating our comments and trying to be careful of that for people. And we have a much more Final Fantasy-centric channel, so I don't expect to see those kinds of trolls around our channel.
We are going to be streaming 12 hours straight of Zelda.
It could end up happening.
Release. We may have to do that.
But I would really like to be able to go into this one without knowing ahead of time what's going to happen. So.
Yep. We may go into our YouTube settings, and there's certain words that you can filter from people saying.
Just filter like all the character names.
We'll filter the words dies. Filter the word. I don't know. There's certain words you can filter that, people usually use it to filter swear words. We don't really filter any words, but we could use it to filter leaks if,
Everyone's going to come out there saying lonk dead. And then it'll get through the filter.
Oh, jeez. Anyways, we may be doing that, but honestly, we'll just have to watch carefully.
Yeah, we've got some great moderators, though.
We do.
And so for the Final Fantasy stream, I know I was on there, Walrus was on there, Eric, and I think Nacho, a few other people were on there.
Yeah. Just banning people left and right.
Just like, it was like bam, 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 like the second we'd seen it. It was like a race to see who could get that guy first.
I might not know the Zelda fan base as well as I know the Final Fantasy one, but it seems to me like the Zelda fan base is much more
I
amicable to each other. It's not so much people just like
dicks
fighting and at war and trying to ruin each other's
you like this
experiences.
one? You're an idiot.
Yeah, I don't see that. But it could be because I'm not looking, but I don't see it with Zelda fans.
I've run across some really cool subreddits for Zelda stuff. There's like a lore subreddit for Zelda that takes things more seriously. And that's a sick one. There's no trolls in there.
That's awesome.
Freaking awesome.
That's awesome.
Then there's the more broad general Zelda where people post their fan art and stuff. But like if you just follow those ones, those communities are really cool. Most people know their crap. It's like they've memorized Hyrule Historia. It's insane. Which, by the way, there's another art book coming out. Couple weeks, like February 21st, I believe it is. It's going to include some Breath of the Wild art and basically be the same dimensions as Hyrule Historia.
So you can put it right next to it on your shelf.
Yeah, it won't screw up your collection for you collectors out there. You can keep your symmetry and everything. It's going to be great.
It's red, though. I feel like it should be blue. Should have been blue. They made it red. They effed up.
They did. They went from the wisdom to the power, dude. And then the courage will be... No, wait, courage should be green.
How did the Lord of the Rings Extended did the same thing? Green was Fellowship. Was red Two Towers?
Oh, red is...
It was.
Okay, and then Return of the King was blue.
Was it? I thought Two Towers was blue.
No, Two Towers is red.
Then they're doing what Lord of the Rings did. In that case, it's cool. It's cool. It'll look on my bookshelf
it
the
makes
same
more
as the Lord
sense
of the
to be
Rings
blue
looks.
because
of his
Link's
tunic, right?
tunic has changed to being more blue.
And the Sheikah influence, I just kind of...
Well, it's art for the entire series. So
missed opportunity,
they're just including
I say.
Breath of the Wild, but
just keep them all green.
Green. So there's another note we have. Mario Odyssey is actually finished or very close to being finished. it could have been a launch title, it seems. I would guess it probably was supposed to be a launch title at some point.
Who talked about this?
I've read about it everywhere.
Source at Nintendo. It was an interview that's been reported a few places. Let me pull up the exact
Let's check it out. But the decision to release on holiday was not due to development delays, I guess. It is due to strictly marketing and spacing out their games so that Nintendo fans have something to look forward every few months instead of front-loading everything and missing, the whole back end.
So, okay, development is considerably
finished.
They're sourcing here. Come on, guys.
They're not legit, man. They don't source.
Brief bit.
They don't cite their sources.
So,
Yoshiaki Koizumi wants people to get their hands on it because it's considerably finished.
Oh, Koizumi, he's the producer.
Yeah.
He's the guy you saw for the majority of the Switch presentation. Well,
I
read about
couple
so many different places.
So I have to find my Nintendo News. Those guys are good.
They usually source, and they usually give really brief.
Their source is it's going to be a Japanese interview.
Guaranteed.
Oh
man. So
dive through those sources.
Gotta sift through our sources.
According to Koizumi,
so he had an interview somewhere and said this.
That this game is considerably finished. Now, what excites me
is it came back around to here, and this one didn't have a source, right?
Then this is where it came from. This must have been right
this
from
is the breaking.
So, this is, I find really fascinating, but I'm excited about it because that the team in Nintendo making Mario Odyssey is the top team at Nintendo. I'm sure Breath of the Wild, I don't know which one they'd have had there. Those are both super high, and they're both being developed at the same time. But Nintendo prioritizes their Mario games. So, they are going to start working on something else right about now. Right. They're starting to get off Mario, and they're starting to jump on. So it could be next year or the year after, we could get, a big title from Nintendo's A-team, so to speak. Possibly one of the bigger titles, like a Donkey Kong or a Metroid or something like that. And that would be sweet. Unless Retro is doing Metroid, I don't know. We don't know what Retro's doing.
Metroid or are they doing Donkey Kong?
Well, they said they weren't. Well, okay, they didn't say anything. Some leaker people who have been sort of wrong about a few things said that the game they're working on is not Donkey Kong. But, who knows?
That means it's the Rabbids RPG.
Yeah. Which I don't know if that exists at the moment.
But that's interesting because that tells us that what Nintendo's prioritizing right now, at least with their own development, is not so much the immediate launch window of the Switch as it is having spaced out support through at least that first
consistent support.
Because if they've decided to take Mario and kick it back to holiday release, because here's the thing, let's say you're sitting there, you're Nintendo, you have Zelda finished and you have Mario finished. And you're going to have Splatoon coming out as well. What's the best way to split those up so that they don't eat into each other?
Splatoon's the perfect summer.
It is a great summer release. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder. They don't have any bundles right now, but I wonder if they will have bundles by the holiday season. If they'll have
bet you they will.
Odyssey bundle.
I bet you come November they'll have a bundle. It might be more though. Maybe $350 for the bundle.
Yeah, I would think that they would probably do more like a Breath of the Wild bundle for holiday, and then they want you to buy Mario separately, right? Because I don't know how much of the profit margin they take out of the game sale with the bundle.
From
you know what I mean?
I don't know.
So I don't know. I don't think you see it very often where a brand new game is bundled with the system.
I feel like they bundled Mario Kart 8 pretty right off the bat. I don't remember if it was at release, but it was pretty immediate.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild, and maybe they will finally bundle 1-2 Switch, by the holiday.
Oh, they should at least.
They aren't doing it now.
Here's the thing with the Wii U, they didn't bundle a game with the cheap version, but they did bundle a game with the black one. So the white Wii U, you didn't get Nintendo Land. The black Wii U, you got Nintendo Land.
Interesting.
Which I thought did a pretty good job of showcasing.
Nintendo Land did a good
Nintendo Land was a very fun game,
yeah.
and it showed all the potential that the system did not take advantage of. Developers did not take advantage of at all.
Yeah. Which, actually, something I wanted to bring up was Nintendo's Project Garage, which was their initiative to get younger developers in smaller groups able to express more creativity and have a little more freedom to come up with game concepts. And Project Garage is where Splatoon came from. So that was a success there. But Project Garage is also where we've gotten a few other things that are a little more dubious. Star Fox Zero and that giant Project Guard and the Robot Sumo one that is still not out. I can't remember what that was called, though.
I can't remember.
So
Miyamoto was stoked about it.
Miyamoto was really pumped about it. But what happened is like the year after that, they announced all these things. And the year after that, it was like they'd all dropped off the map. And so what I would guess internally at Nintendo, 2015 is when they reorganized their entire software divisions. They merged them both basically into one giant division. Miyamoto was promoted to be a creative...
Be a best boy.
Something or other.
Best boy. Miyamoto's best boy at Nintendo.
And so anyways, they're trying to promote these new ideas, right? We see, I think, I would not be too surprised if ARMS had come out of their Project Garage or whatever. But
it seems like that kind of...
Yeah, I'm hoping they have more of that kind of thing coming up because, like, while Nintendo has some of the strongest game franchises in the world, I feel like currently they exist on the strength of their franchises solely. That's the only reason they're still in the console business, right?
When you look at the sales of even the Wii, it's like you would not value Nintendo at $25 billion based on their actual revenue.
Right.
It's their copyrights and their IP. That's where that's why Nintendo's valued at $25 billion.
There's a lot of like potential energy there, so to speak. It's like a giant boulder at the top of a mountain, and you know.
Every time
one
I
day
hear things
they'll
like
actually
that,
make
it
money
just
off
blows
it.
my mind that George Lucas sold Star Wars for like $2 billion.
I think it's $4 billion. Yeah,
it's just like fetching Nintendo.
And Nintendo is worth
$25 billion, but you sold Star Wars
6,
for
7
like
times
under that. What?
That shows the potential.
That's
though.
kind of weird to think about.
It just blows my mind.
Like maybe just Mario is worth for what Star Wars is, but then you've got Zelda and Donkey Kong and Pokemon and all that other stuff.
Well, and I think if Nintendo is going to kind of be this almost outlier console, if they're going to be blazing their own way and making consoles strictly because people will come to play their games, even if third parties don't develop games on them, then if they plan on having to keep doing that, they need some really, really good IPs to join up with like the Mario and the Donkey Kong and the Zelda stuff. Yeah. So Splatoon, we got that in Splatoon.
That's awesome.
At least in Japan, if you go online to play Splatoon today,
basically,
if you were to log on, you will be the only, unless you are Japanese yourself, you will be the only person who is not Japanese in the entire freaking lobby. It's crazy because it's so popular in Japan.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Like it's popular here, but
it's not as popular.
Here are playing it?
I rarely see
it's not
non-Japanese names.
Like the most I'll see in a lobby now will be like one or two other people that are not a Japanese name.
Earlier, when we first were playing, it was way more common.
Yeah.
But
people just stopped playing after a while.
I suppose so.
Europe
Maybe, and that could just
US.
be the Wii U, just kind of.
Yeah, it's tough to say,
fizzling out
but Splatoon is huge for them. I mean, the Splatoon area at this conference, like what Nintendo has set up in Tokyo currently, is gigantic. And imagine subtracting that whole thing. What fills that void? What is it?
Right.
What does
More
Nintendo
Mario.
do this year without Splatoon?
Right.
Filling in the middle. They would have
It's
Zelda
nice
and
knowing that Mario Odyssey is basically finished because that's you can guarantee that that will be playable at this E3 this year.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's true.
Last E3, all they had was Zelda. So this E3, they might just have Mario.
All they'll have is Mario. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, I would like to see Nintendo diversify a little bit and continue. Because, like, it's interesting to think that Splatoon was almost all Mario characters. And to imagine what that... Mario's worth something, but it's worth far more to me to have an actual new IP, even if the game mechanics were all the same. To have these characters and what that's worth to them is a lot. So
it would have been called Mario Paint.
It probably would have been. There were a lot of people when the game was coming out. They're like, "Why aren't these Mario characters? Why are there these stupid squids? Why didn't you just have everyone with a flood on their back shooting?"
Anyone who said that
stuff
was not following the development of Star Fox fetching
Zero.
No. The one with the
Command?
dinosaurs.
Oh my gosh, Adventure?
Adventure.
Yeah.
Because that was not supposed to be a Star Fox game.
There you go.
That's a good point.
And
that's
the fact,
a great example.
I actually think that's a
in.
pretty good game. I'm not gonna lie. I actually really enjoy that game, but the Star Fox angle is totally shoehorned. There's no reason why it should be a Star Fox game. I really think it would have been better actually if it had not been a Star Fox game. So, because you play a Star Fox game, you expect a certain kind of experience, and they had like those little sections where you'd fly between like the asteroid or planets or whatever. And it's like, that's when you play Star Fox. And then you go back to playing Dinosaur Planet, not Star Fox.
Right. I want a Star Fox where you go to a planet and then you start a farm. And then you can date people in the village.
Exactly. See, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is that like...
It's not Star Fox.
You don't have to, it doesn't have brand recognition. It's like, sure.
Make it.
With Splatoon, you made it.
Yeah,
you
make
made
the brand
it
recognition
into a brand that can be recognized, and that's what they should have done.
I'm glad Nintendo's getting away from using Mario everything, like Star Fox and all of that stuff. I'm glad they did it more 10, 15 years ago, and they're relinquishing that now. They're kind of they're seeing the need, like you're saying, they're seeing the need for new IPs. And everyone else is seeing the need for it too. Like, as much as I love Mario, it's like everything can't be Mario, you guys. You got to do something else.
Yeah, it's true. So, I don't know, man. I don't know if the Switch does not take off, if it doesn't sell very well. I can still see Nintendo making another go with another kind of console of some sort. Just because I get the sense that they at least, like on the Wii U, for example, I get the sense they at least made back what they put in R&D.
I believe so, because
it's like
their games still sold pretty well. Like, the best-selling Smash of all time is Smash for the Wii U. Like,
Isn't
Mario
that only
Kart
the best-selling
sold
Smash because they combine the sales with the 3DS
yeah.
version?
But the development was for the Wii U, and then they just kind of ported it to the 3DS. So they still, I don't know how much that cost, but I still feel like they made their money back in dividends. And then Mario Kart Wii U, the Mario Kart 8 just sold like crazy. So I could totally see them having made their money back.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
I really feel like
sold a lot.
I really feel like the only reason that the Switch won't be a hit is because, one, sure, they're going to start with a launch lineup like this.
Yeah.
But you could have totally made up for that by having a virtual console that's on point.
They haven't said a word about that yet, by the way.
That's like, you go there and it's just like,
we don't
whoa, look at all these games I can have right away. They won't do that.
No, they won't.
So,
and it turns out the triggers for the Joy-Cons are not analog.
They're digital.
So that calls into question whether GameCube will actually make an appearance on Virtual Console. There's ways around it, but it's weirder, you know?
It does make it strange. So
we'll see.
But
we'll see.
That, and then on top of that, you can take this quote for what you will. Randy Pitchford is a person who people have varying opinions about. I mean, he is kind of he's one of those guys who will like come out and like lose it on fans who criticize him. He's not one of those reserved business types.
Super composed.
With all the criticism on Duke Nukem Forever, he just really handled that poorly. But obviously, Gearbox knows what they're doing when they really put their mind to something, and you get Borderlands. They know how to make good games, and
they know how to make good Borderlands.
He came out and said that they were talking with Nintendo. They were in talks with Nintendo to bring Borderlands 3 to the Switch, and that Nintendo, it appears, were the ones who kind of stopped pursuing that they had other priorities, as he puts it. And that is interesting because I think that the sentiment for gamers, or at least the commonly held belief, was that Nintendo, I don't know, that they were pursuing third parties, but the third parties weren't interested in their machine because it doesn't have enough power, it's too hard to develop for, or whatever.
Yeah, that seems to be the narrative.
They were the ones rejecting Nintendo.
Right.
But it's plausible, I think, and this is an interesting quote, that it could be the other way around, that Nintendo's not interested in having certain kinds of games on it and just don't even want to pursue further, talks about bringing those games to the Switch.
Nintendo was mean to Randy.
That just
they
makes
said
me
never come back.
That makes me wonder about whether or not it's really an issue of the hardware not being up to snuff, or whether it's an issue of Nintendo just not really caring about having those kinds of experiences on their console.
Yeah.
Whether they're trying to build a certain image. I don't know.
Well,
Nintendo
of the '90s was like that.
Yeah, totally.
You worked
They're
with
very
them.
exclusive.
You played by their rules, and
Yeah.
they didn't negotiate with like anybody. If you weren't going to do what they wanted, it was like, fine, do whatever you want. And I think they held that attitude through GameCube era, even up to the Wii. And the only indication I've seen that has changed is the Nindies project.
Oh yeah.
That they have become much more receptive to indie developers and not having these, like, it used to be cost so much to have like official licensing and crap for like the development kits and everything. It's cheaper now, and supposedly so at least for indie developers, Nintendo has shown that they want that indie development. But it is true, maybe they don't want, or maybe they're not going to go out of their way to try and
I think that's the thing. If Borderlands wanted to be on the Switch, it could be on the Switch. They can develop it for the Switch.
From happening.
But I think what they're looking for is some incentives. They're looking for help from Nintendo. They're looking for a deal.
Well, Sony and
carts.
Microsoft dish out those incentives like crazy.
Oh, totally. Yeah, other companies do that.
Like
and Nintendo might just be like, dude, you can make it. There's no one's going to keep you from making it, but we aren't going to help you
on
make
Microsoft's end, because they have such a lack of like exclusive titles that anyone cares about.
Yeah.
They've gone so far as to try and get Tomb Raider games as exclusives for a year, right? But they're not exclusives. But so that means for Xbox you have Gears, you have Halo.
All those types of games, by the way. Though.
I'm trying to think, and those used to be big names, but the new Gears just came out, and it was hardly a blip on the radar. It's just like nobody cares that much about Gears, and Halo is definitely nothing. It's not the original studio anymore, and so
who knows how much they put into Scalebound, which got canceled.
Oh yeah, because that would have been an exclusive for them. So I know there are companies out there like Microsoft desperately want something to be exclusive. And so they're willing to do something to make it exclusive. Yeah. I feel like Nintendo, because they make their own games.
Yeah, they have so many exclusives.
F off. Like, I don't care. Like, make it on our thing or not. I don't know. I feel like they would. I could definitely see Nintendo having that kind of an attitude.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, yeah, all of this is obviously speculation, but I would feel like with such a thin launch lineup and with that necessitating really spreading out your first party content to have something to look forward to all year, that they would be almost desperate for third parties to give them games in the meantime.
Yeah.
And that
it would be worth money. They would pay to help produce some of these games.
I would think,
or offer incentives.
My perspective as if I were somebody over the what you'd call it, managing all of this launch stuff, that I would be like, oh, freak yes, please bring Borderlands. Please give us a Dark Souls trilogy. Please bring us Persona 5. We'll do whatever we can to make sure that those are playable on our system so that we'll have players incentivized to buy. And I just wonder about, and obviously we have to speculate. We can't actually know.
We don't
but
know.
I wonder about what reason they would have if they did not care, or if they did take the attitude of, well, nothing's stopping you from doing it.
Why make it?
even if they are asking for incentives, like
right.
why you wouldn't be open to that at all when you have literally right now nothing else aside from Mario, Zelda, and Splatoon. Right. And maybe some of your other first-party titles that are like Metroid,
Pokemon
that are in development, or Pokemon
year.
Or something.
Yeah.
And when this has been like the major issue for you for a decade, like it seems that either they don't see it as an issue, they don't think that's the problem, and they're like, no, we're still Blue Ocean, we're still going to make that work somehow, or I don't know. It just makes me really question the. How in touch some of their executives really are.
Nintendo, with the Wii U, they did do that with a few titles. They did it with Darksiders 2.
Well, Bayonetta was an exclusive. I'm sure there was a huge monetary incentive there.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess that's more talking about exclusives versus just having it at all.
Right. But at the same time, Nintendo gave out a lot of money. Like Bayonetta being an exclusive for the Wii U, like people were pissed about that because they wanted to play it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's like Nintendo clearly swayed that company. And I just,
Yeah, I mean,
because I do think that can upset people. I think that's maybe even the wrong move, is to try and grab something that was before multiplat and be like, nope, you can only get it with us.
And exclusive.
I think it's just trying to get multiplats to also include a version on your console, and I don't see a strong move in that to try and make that happen. And I think that the majority of the gaming community thinks that's the biggest problem with Nintendo right now, but they don't seem to think it is.
In the West, which is our perspective, that is clearly an issue. And when you go to the Switch presentation and you have Bethesda and EA, and that's it. Every other developer there, every other game, they were all Japanese.
And then Bethesda's giving you a 6-year-old game.
I know, they're giving you old, and then EA, they're like...
It's just, I don't know. I wonder if it is that they intentionally feel like that's just not something we're interested in. We're trying to create something different, go after a different market altogether. If they just really don't care at all about current gen, like top of the line A-list video games, or if they feel like they're doing enough but are confused as to why those developers aren't interested.
I wonder if they look at what they did with Bayonetta and like Darksiders and stuff and just saw it as like, that wasn't worth it. I don't know. Maybe they don't think it was worth it.
That's possible.
I have no idea. Because I am curious, because the more I read this, the more I think like they were talking to Nintendo, but that stopped for some reason. So he's saying he has no idea why Nintendo's not talking to them anymore, which makes it sound like Nintendo approached them
and then stopped talking.
Stopped. Yeah. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot more info, I guess. But.
Right.
So maybe that was their thought, and then they decided, no, we only have so much budget allocated for that, and it's going to this thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's a really, that's pretty confusing. I don't know. I expect this year's E3 to be really interesting for Nintendo because I believe there will be Pokemon Stars or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that maybe not this year, probably not this year because that wouldn't make sense because Sun and Moon sales will
unless they launch in
for
September
some time
or something.
Yeah, maybe September could work. But Sun and Moon, and then supposedly there's rumors of a Fire Emblem Fates port or version for the Switch. So, and again, I don't know. When does that come? And is that a thing for next year? And people just bought that like last year. So, anyone who really is in a Fire Emblem bought Fates already.
They already have it, yeah.
So you need to make it really compelling.
It could be a fourth entry. Or if you bought the first 3, then you buy the first 3 for 20% off or whatever. And okay, I don't know. There's that Fire Emblem Warriors game too that comes out. I don't know if they have announced a date, but that if they're going to do another Warriors Musou game, it works best while they're Fire Emblem of all of Nintendo's properties.
Right.
It's
just pretty crazy.
It's very interesting what Nintendo's got going on. It's hard to know what they're thinking, and analysts are constantly trying to predict, and they're usually wrong. Nobody knows what Nintendo's doing, why they're doing it. I feel like there's a huge disconnect
Their
between
investors
us in the
don't
West
know.
and between them in Japan thinking that they're doing fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure Nintendo's offices have developers coming in every day. Kimishima says 80 games are being developed right now for the Switch.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of those games are, but my guess is they're mostly Japanese developers, and that, I don't know, they're just kind of slowly caring less.
Nintendo
is here in the West.
They're one of the most traditional video game companies based in Japan still. Like tradition-oriented, conservative. They're based in Kyoto, which should tell you, if you know anything about Japan, should tell you the whole story. They're based in Kyoto. They are not in Tokyo. Or not even Osaka.
Every other game company's in Tokyo.
They're in
the Emperor should live here.
Yes.
Bullfetch of the Emperor lived in Tokyo now.
He used to live in there until 1870 or something.
Right, so since 1870 they've been pissed. Nintendo's been pissed. Like, come live with us now.
So like talking about Nintendo's investors, which, gosh, could there be a more confusing group of people on this planet? I don't know. Like what happened after Pokemon, where they were like boom, 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 like not even bothering to look into it. Nintendo did make a lot of money off Pokemon Go,
yeah.
but and then all of a sudden people realizing, and then no, never mind, and the stock.
And then Mario Run, and then that didn't.
And then Mario Run
didn't do it either.
And then every Switch announcement has kind of like
yeah, it kind of leads to a drop.
The most recent one, I think it dropped. The first day dropped like 5%, and then 1 point, something like 2% the next day. So their investors aren't like showing any confidence in this right now. But what the investors have been calling for years is Nintendo to make smartphone games, which Nintendo is finally doing. So it's possible that they have, because of the investors, you take off the investors enough, they have voting power, right? Like they can shuffle the board, basically.
That's true, yeah.
And so
Kimishima's out.
Yeah, Kimishima's done. So I wonder if internally Nintendo's shifted more resources than we would have expected towards smartphone development.
That would
be Fire
very
Emblem, with the Animal Crossing coming up, and who knows what else, or what those games may hold down the road. The day this goes up, there's supposed to be a Fire Emblem Direct, and we'll know a lot
tonight.
more about
that. You guys will see that tonight.
Yeah, so
if you want to.
I don't know. Like, maybe Nintendo's is like, we got to hedge up this whole smartphone deal right now. We've got the Switch going on, but maybe they're focused more on smartphones than we had expected. I don't know. They're a confusing company.
Go probably didn't help that. They're probably like, oh, fetch, this is printing money.
Because it still is. Pokemon Go is still making a ton of money.
Yeah.
It's not number one, but it's still making a ton of money. In one quarter, Nintendo's share of Pokemon Go was more money than they had made in the entire previous fiscal year.
Holy crap.
So, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So do we have like a solid number on how many Switch units for sure they
I
said
heard around 2
Didn't
million.
Reggie say 2 million? Yeah, I heard
I
about
can't
2
remember.
million.
I think Kimishima said that, but I don't know if
because they've
that's
sold out
perfect.
basically all of them at GameStop's,
Amazon,
Amazon,
Walmart,
sold out.
Target. Yeah, they're
They're
all
basically
out.
sold out of their original Switch,
Yeah,
like shipment, correct?
and I've heard
Whatever
that was
number
2
that
million.
is.
Yeah.
2 million, I would assume, is pretty low for demand.
Yeah, especially for early March for that whole month.
They were explaining that
low.
it was production wasn't able to. Right, but I've heard that. Where was I reading that pre-orders for the Wii U were? There was one retailer I was reading that was like 1.5 million, just that one retailer. So yeah, it was like 3 million in their initial run.
Yeah,
something like that.
But it's interesting, and Reggie had a quote that we'll read here in a minute about shortages, but they had a purposeful. Okay, he's saying it's not purposeful, but I think it is a purposeful
done this before.
shortage on the NES Classic, a purposeful shortage on Fire Emblem Fates, the one that came with all 3 games and one that everyone wanted.
Oh yeah,
they had like a very small shipment of that they went with.
The Amiibo,
purposeful
shortage.
I
Amiibo.
feel like all
Absolutely.
of it's like
Very
the classic
conservative.
saying, right? Fetch me once, shame on you. Fetch me twice,
The
shame
classic
on
saying,
me, or
yes.
whatever.
Wait, so Reggie said they manufactured
He said
2 NESs on purpose? Because I read this quote before and I didn't get that out of it.
He said global demand
Was
in excess of anything we had anticipated for the NES Classic. And I'm wondering, how on earth can you possibly look me in the face and tell me that you did not anticipate the demand that there would be for that thing? Only expected 30 to 40-year-olds to pick up the machine. Faults the fact that people had already picked up Super Mario Brothers a bunch of times in the past as a reason for low anticipated demand. It's like, why do you think they picked it up so many times in the past? It's fetching still something that people like and will buy a million times. Like, I feel like that's like PR bullfetch speak.
right.
Like, you can't possibly not anticipate 5 times in a row that people want to buy your stuff.
Right.
And have not only just a shortage, like an incredible shortage, like not even close to the demand, to the point where like people are selling amiibos or that version of Fire Emblem with the 3 in it for like, I don't know, 6-7 times the price that it should have been. People buying it and then squatting it, just so that they can sell the game for $500. Like, how at this point do you not anticipate correctly the demand for your product? I find that to be really hard to believe. And I feel like that
it has happened quite often.
Well, who manages
It
their
does
supply
keep
chain? Because
happening.
there's a there's a executive position for that specifically.
Is there?
Yeah, for supply chain management. That's actually why
Does
Apple
Nintendo
is such a
America have their
profitable
own?
company, because their supply chain management is like impeccable. And
So
that's
their
why Tim
predictions
Cook was
and-
promoted to be president.
Oh,
CEO
was he
of
over
Apple.
that?
He was over the supply chain for
Oh,
Apple.
go figure.
So that shows you where Apple's
Smart.
priorities were. Our supply chain guy is the guy who's going to run everything.
Right,
Not like
because if
one
you
of the
guess
other,
right, if you guess wrong with Amiibo, you've got warehouses like the Disney Infinity 3.0, that game. They guessed
they screwed
wrong
it up.
on one of their, like the Hulk, I think. They have 1 million Hulks in a warehouse somewhere that they just didn't sell. The demand wasn't enough. So it is risky. If you print way more than you need, you could end up losing a ton of money. But that's the case of it with every product. That's always the case. It's more understandable with Amiibo because they had never done that before.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the NES Classic, when it comes to their freaking system, and I don't know, especially after that launch trailer in October got viewed like 50 million times in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Like, dude, people are interested in this fetch. You better be ready. And that was months and months in advance, and they aren't ready.
Well, he's saying that this is not going to happen with the Switch. So that would lead me to believe that they're going to have another shipment here soon.
Oh, probably about a month or two after.
And I would hope that that's the case. That would be the only way that proves to me that he's
right.
being truthful about this.
So
They better know.
There's different philosophies on supply chain management. There's a lot of different ways different companies handle and tackle the same problem. The thing is like, I don't know what Nintendo does, but like Toyota, for example, they practice this supply chain methodology where they don't keep stock, they don't keep warehouse.
Because that's worth money.
Because exactly. Stuff sitting around that's done. They want things moving in and out immediately.
As the demand comes, they have shipments coming.
Which is why you hear when an earthquake happens in like South Japan. This has happened to Nintendo before. I remember when Pokemon Gold and Silver came out, and there was an earthquake near one of their facilities in it's kind of near Fukuoka, I think. But anyways, it disrupted their production cycle. And if it's anything like how Toyota manages their production cycles, they're bringing the raw materials in and creating something and kicking it out and running a very, very narrow operation. There's very narrow margins for like predicting the right amount of something or not. And so like for Toyota, if Toyota's not predicting within a really narrow margin the correct amount for their demand of their cars, they're going to have a surplus very easily.
But they have
what
to
they're
put
creating,
somewhere.
and they have to put them somewhere, which means you're leasing warehouse space, which is a waste of money. You don't want to do that. So maybe Nintendo is trying to run too razor thin of a margin on their supply chain management.
That's possible.
And it just keeps burning them because they're trying to like not waste money. But in trying to not waste money,
that only
they're
works,
missing out on
though.
potential sales.
Exactly. That only works if you're ready once the sellout happens with a new batch. That only works, and it doesn't work if you sell out of all your NES Minis and
You're like,
you're
whoops.
done.
We had no idea that there were an extra 5 million people who wanted
fetch.
this. I guess we better make those now.
And then you're 2 months down the road before those actually come out.
The second shipment of the NES Classic came in early December. So the first shipment was early mid-November. And then the next shipment came in like the first week of December,
It's
I believe.
still sold out everywhere.
Yeah, and even still it is sold out everywhere, it's true. But that was about a month spaced out there. So I wonder if
that's about
something like that is what we
time.
can expect for the Switch. That initial shipment coming in March 3rd, the next shipment coming in first week of April, second week of April, something like that. If they follow the same cycle there. But I just know that a lot of companies were super enamored by the way Toyota managed their business because Toyota just killed it through the 80s and 90s. And I would not be too surprised if Nintendo's trying to emulate how Toyota does their supply chain management.
Yeah.
And, it's something that it's like, and that's like a super technical thing, but it's like you need to adapt. Like you need to, if this is going to keep happening, you can't run your supply chain this way. You freaking can't do it.
Yeah.
You need to manage warehouses with your stock. But then I understand why businesses don't want to do that. A lot of businesses would rather err on the end of not producing enough than producing too much.
That's
why
conservative
Disney, like you're saying,
do.
is that's why Disney Infinity is gone. It is not a thing anymore because they screwed that up way too much. Because they had to predict 1 year in advance how many of each character people were going to buy to manufacture it as much as they needed.
Yeah.
A year ahead of time for movies that weren't even out yet, you're
that's
guessing
the
how
crazy
much do people want Tonto from the Lone Ranger.
Right.
And then, the movie comes
Turns
out.
out that no one watched
sucks.
that movie.
Yeah, nobody watched the movie. And then you have warehouses full of them. So it put them out, like, I mean,
Yeah.
I still believe they were profitable. Avalanche Studios is still handling it well, I think, but Disney is just super rigorous and strict with that kind of crap. So they just like turned all that off. So the only way this makes any sense to me is if that's what they're doing. That is the only way this makes any sense to me.
Because they need to have a strong launch. And they're not meeting demand. And that's fine if they didn't anticipate it, but
I could understand maybe for the Switch specifically not feeling like there's going to be a 5 million unit demand,
especially in March,
for the launch,
right?
Because the launch is Breath of the Wild.
But in November, you bet they're going to have a lot more units.
But yeah, I just feel like, well, I don't know. It's impossible to say. It's all speculation. You have to say that, you have to preclude that with what you say. But it's just like, well, then why didn't you get more at launch? Like, why didn't you secure more high-end level titles from third parties at launch so that more people would want it, instead of just saying, well, then we'll just ship out few of them instead? And we don't know.
We don't know. That is a $1 million question. That question is worth $1 million. Seriously, like if you know the answer to that question, go work at Nintendo, manage their supply chain, and you'll make $1 million.
I'm going to look up who manages their supply chain after this because I'm curious.
And I wonder if it's different depending on North America and Europe, and they all have their own people saying, "Hey, this is how much."
Does their manufacturing all have to go back through Nintendo of Japan?
I'm sure it goes through there, but I don't know that Japan is deciding how much Nintendo will buy in America. I would think they have their own specialists in America.
Japanese companies are notorious for giving very little autonomy to their regional headquarters. They're notorious for being like, no. We are Nissan Japan.
That's true.
We're calling all shots. You're just Nissan USA. You will do what we tell you to do.
Yeah, you do marketing. You do nothing else. You just market. We make the stuff.
Which I use Nissan as an example. They're actually not a good example of that. But anyway. They're just Japanese companies.
You know, is a good example of that? Nintendo.
Nintendo's a great example of it.
All right, well, that's about all we got for the Switch. My gosh, we'll have more later as this news comes out. We got the Fire Emblem Direct tonight, and then hopefully we'll hear more.
And it is interesting, just as a footnote, to notice that what was mentioned about the subscription service was NES and SNES games. So we can assume that, at least for Virtual Console. But there was just no information at all about Virtual Console. So we can speculate and talk about that, but we literally do not know anything about it. So hopefully that's something we find out about maybe in February or something.
If GameCube games are a part of that. I know the GameCube discs held, 4 gigs or something like that? Is that about the size of a GameCube game? 3 to 4 gigs? Anyways, the Switch doesn't have a ton of internal space. That's 15% of your internal storage there.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know, if GameCube games are included in the Virtual Console, you're not going to be able to hold too many of them, along with all of your DLC and save spots and all that stuff. I look forward to hearing more about how that's going to work.
Yeah. It would be sweet, but this will not happen. But it would be sweet if Nintendo had some type of cloud storage service where it was like, you purchase this game, it's like Steam, you've got it in your account.
It seems
and when you
like,
need it on demand, you can download it to your console and play it. And if you wanted to delete it, it's similar. I mean, you can do that right now with their eShop stuff. But it would just be really nice for that to just be a thing and to carry over between freaking consoles.
And the rumor is that your purchases now will be tied to your account, not the system. That is what I've been hearing. And that is awesome. That means you won't have to keep buying these games every new system.
I freaking hope that ends up being true. Because that's the most annoying thing about it. And it's part of the reason...
In that sense, that's how they do it. It would be cloud storage.
That's a lot of the reason why I feel dissuaded to buy Virtual Console games a lot of times. Because I'm not going to have this 6 months from now when this is no longer a relevant system.
A few years. Yeah.
So why buy it? That's like the whole thing with Pokemon Snap, like we talked about last time. Like, releasing
at the end of Wii U
on the Wii U version is a waste of time.
Totally. They must have developed it and been sitting on it for a while and been like, hey, this will take too long to put on the Switch. Just put it on the Wii U. Just get it out there.
All right.
Switch, Nintendo. Switch.
Now we'll switch to Nioh.
Yeah. So Nioh's coming out. Developed by the same team that does Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
And, I don't have a ton to talk about on this particular topic, but I did think it was interesting that we haven't heard anything about Ninja Gaiden since I mean, I'm sure they... Well, 3 was the last big console one. I think that they had another release that was pretty bad and got panned big time in between then. But it's been a long time since like a major or the next like major installment of Ninja Gaiden, which is interesting because I think that game was actually the best version that was on the Wii U, not on the other consoles. But anyways, my experience with Ninja Gaiden is pretty limited. I played Ninja Gaiden Black on the Xbox, and it was really freaking hard. I don't even think I made it past like the first level, to be honest with you.
It's a double black diamond.
It was at an interesting time though, because back then I wasn't really interested in playing hard games. I got frustrated by hard games. I was more strictly about playing games for story. And Dark Souls, I should say Demon Souls first, sort of shifted my perspective on that. Like where I started looking for difficult challenge in games and found that satisfying, right? So I kind of want to go back and play Ninja Gaiden Black now that I've kind of changed the way I approach games and see how hard it really is. I'm sure it is very hard. But I played Ninja Gaiden 2 a little bit more on Xbox 360, and that game wasn't as hard, I felt like, and I enjoyed that one. But Ninja Gaiden 3, people really, really didn't like it. And we were doing a video around the time of its release thinking that, Ninja Gaiden's a big series. If we base this video on Ninja Gaiden, we'll be able to get it shared and stuff like that.
Because the guy wanted ninjas somehow. And we were like, oh, Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden's about to release. There's a great timing for this. But Ninja Gaiden 3 sold horribly. I don't even think it broke 500,000 units, at least on initial launch. And I was like, I thought Ninja Gaiden was a lot more popular than this. Just brand recognition alone. Yeah. But I guess because it has been traditionally so hard that maybe it hasn't had that mass appeal that I originally thought it did. But
that might be true.
This is a good thing for Ninja Gaiden, though, is that there's been this resurgence of players who are looking for something really tough. Yeah. And with the popularization of Dark Souls, those are selling 2, 3, 4 million units when they come out. There's a large group of players. At least I think that is. You can tell me if I'm wrong on that. But I believe Dark Souls sells well more than 2 million units. The games that are released, like Dark Souls 3, for instance, right? So that might be to them. They see that and go, "Ooh, we can make hard games, and lots of people will buy them." And so Nioh is sort of like a gateway. They're calling it. Into getting Ninja Gaiden to come back. It's like we can make something that we purposefully, because I read another interview that said that they like intentionally avoided making anything easy. They were like, they really wanted to make it a tough and challenging game. And that's a tough thing to do in an industry that's all about accessibility right now and making things, easier for new players to come in. And they're really going on this like, no, we're going to make this a really hard game kind of angle with Nioh. And if that does well and they learn what they want to learn and they're able to get the sales figures maybe they're looking for, then they feel like, okay, we can bring Ninja Gaiden back and it will be more accepted.
To me, it's almost more that if Nioh is a good game, people can say, "Oh, Team Ninja made a good game again."
Good game, yeah.
And
Team Ninja's
sweet.
Back.
Can you make another Ninja Gaiden, please? But do it like kind of good style, like you did this one.
Well, people also really hated Metroid Other M, which they developed. I didn't hate it. I thought it was a solidly developed game. I just think that because it was Metroid and with some of the story choices they did to her,
it just was different than people were expecting.
Yeah, I think the game was actually pretty solid mechanically, though. I really enjoyed playing it. But
that's actually the interesting thing. Team Ninja, they were not the original developers for Nioh. They were brought in on it, and Nioh's been reinvented a couple times now. So what we're getting is not what it was originally supposed to be.
I played that demo when it was up for a bit there, and I thought it was a solid game. I really did think that it felt really good to play, and different enough from Dark Souls to make it really unique. And so you can't just call this a Dark Souls clone like a lot of people did with that one game. I forget what it was called. It was just like, it looks just like Dark Souls, but it's like a heavier version. You're like a big dude. What was that game? Lost. Oh, shoot. Something of the Lost. I can't remember right now. I never played it.
Not Dark Souls 2.
Not Dark Souls. But anyways, I'd like to see Ninja Gaiden kind of be good again. What I have played of it, I've really liked. Aside from it's not a very good story, it's not really what it's going for. But the games I have played, even the NES ones, but especially Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden 2, I thought they were very good. I was just like, oh, this is too hard for me at the time. But now I'm interested in going back and playing Black again and being like, no, you're not going to defeat me. I'm going to defeat you, and just like resolutely get good,
get good.
And so it would be nice to see them kind of make a rebound with Nioh.
I agree.
I hope that it happens.
That's one of those franchises I hope doesn't ever die. Ninja Gaiden made some good games back in the day that we played growing up, and want them to keep going. It is nice when they say, though, Ninja Gaiden's like going into the shadows, like they're retreating to the shadows for a while. I like the way they put it, because that's all
ninja tactics.
Yeah.
They're going to come out and assassinate us with a game like they didn't even know they were making.
But it shows that they're just waiting and watching. They're scoping things out, and if they're going to make a new game, they're not just going to make one just to make one. Like, oh, what's the next Ninja Gaiden? Let's start making it now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, let's wait for a good idea. Let's wait and see what people are looking for. Then we'll make one. And that shows like a maturity as a company.
Yeah.
That I don't think people gave them I don't think maturity is a word used to describe their company very often. But they're showing some right now, and I think it's great.
If Nioh does well, though, who knows, man? You gotta make Nioh 2 now. And then
do you make Nioh 2 or do you make Ninja Gaiden 4? Like, that's the conundrum, right? I think you make Nioh 2, to be honest. And then, about really fetch people with Ninja Gaiden 4?
Nninja Gaiden Nioh. Like Ninja Gaiden parentheses.
Oh,
Nioh
shoot. Dude,
2.
what if
they combine the world?
Yeah, they have the samurai from Nioh fighting against the fetching Nioh Hayabusa.
Nioh versus...
They could totally mix the world if it works.
Have a strategy RPG with samurai and ninja.
But we'll make it take place in modern-day Tokyo, and they'll both head up different pop groups, pop singing.
There you go. So it'll be
perfect crossover.
Sharp Nioh. So it'll be.
I don't know.
I don't even know what it would be.
It's so interesting though, because like Nioh is such a different game from Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden is
fantastic, and you jump 30 feet in the air.
You're moving really fast, and it's a lot about testing reflex. Like you gotta be like razor thin, like press that button exactly the right time, really dodge at the right flashy, time. Yeah. You have to manage a lot of enemies at once, and Nioh, which is more in the vein of like the Dark Souls style.
One-on-one.
Is one-on-one. Carefully approach the situation. Be smart. Be defensive. Plan ahead. It's not quite the same game.
Yeah, they're pretty different.
So
that's like how we played GoldenEye 007, dude. We were the freaking OG Dark Souls players. You'd go up, shoot one bullet with your silenced pistol next to a dude's head. So you'd be like, what? And then he would follow you up to the bathroom. You'd shoot and kill him. And then go get another
keep like bringing people to you. Yeah, dude. That's exactly what Dark Souls is. So I don't know. I mean, even if Nioh is really good and it's developed really well and it's a solid game and people really like it, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be able to do Ninja Gaiden well, because it's a very different kind of game. But
FromSoft should make Ninja Gaiden, and then
they should just switch.
Switch
franchises. Switch. But I'm excited for Nioh. We're gonna get it right when it comes out. February we'll cover 9th. It, and we'll let you guys know what we think of it right away. By the way, maybe this is a good time as any to introduce people to it. This is going to be for you who watch our entire podcasts. For the viewers who watch the whole thing, you will know this, but we will do another announcement for people who don't watch the whole podcast. We're going to start doing what we're going to call initial reviews.
Yes, this is correct. Yeah.
So basically, we will have a game, play it through, and do a review as soon as possible.
Yeah, like days after it comes
Hopefully,
out.
Eventually, we'll get... companies sending us advanced copies so we can have it day one. But for those that we don't get, we'll play them over the course of a week or two or whatever, finish them, and have a review up right away. Now, these will be separated from our in-depth reviews and analyses, what you've come to see from
the 20
Final Fantasy.
Will still absolutely happen.
Yeah.
So we will still be doing those, but those take so long to make that you get us doing a bunch of Final Fantasy 15 content and no review for it, and now that's been pushed back a while. Right. So these initial reviews will be a way for us to get initial feelings before we do all the delving, discussing, researching, And then, those feelings might change by the time the in-depth review comes out.
Totally.
So we will have an initial review for Kingdom Hearts 2.8, an initial review for Nioh, and that kind of thing.
Persona 5, and all of that stuff.
So that's what will be happening on the channel moving forward. So we'll have a review for Nioh right near the launch window. So.
Yo!
And this comes from a place of just people, like you guys always are asking us what we think of games. And it's like, we always want to give it the proper treatment and make a sweet, long, well thought out video discussing every aspect of the game. But a lot of times people just want to know what we think, how we feel after playing the game. And that's why we're doing it, basically. People just want to know what we think, and we may as well say words. Mm-hmm. So Kingdom Hearts 2.8 will be the first one of those.
So there you go.
Super soon.
All right.
We got questions for people. Michael Pettis, this first question here. What are 3 popular video games that you never really liked? I could fill that out and then some with just the Grand Theft Auto franchise.
I'm not huge on Grand Theft Auto.
Although I did like the top-down Grand Theft Auto 2.
Like the really old one?
Yeah, the old school where you
PlayStation
would steer your car around and do everything from like that, just that weirdo top-down view.
Yeah.
I think because Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first one that was the 3D.
Yeah, and it's when Grand Theft Auto started getting real that it became less appealing to me. Like it becomes more fetched up what you're doing in those games.
Yeah.
The more, which is why I like True Crime Streets of LA, for example, but not Streets of New York. It became way too real. They tried to be a little more gritty with it, and it was all about gang warfare, and it was based in New York, and it was just a lot more real. And that's more than I want in a true crime game. I want something fun. I want Nick Kang to go to dojos and beat people up. I don't want to really fetch with people in a real world like that.
Like actual gang violence.
Yeah, it's just it's important and stuff, but I don't think these games give it very good treatment. You're just mowing people down, and it doesn't feel fun anymore. Grand Theft Auto, I only have interest in the messing around with the mods and like the physics and just
jumping out of planes.
Yeah, jumping out of planes and trying to land in the pool on the rooftop of that.
I remember Dan Condi showing us a bunch of those when the Grand Theft Auto 4 came out. I don't remember what it was.
You should probably play Just Cause then.
Oh, Just Cause.
Just Cause is the most whack controls.
Because the first one you played, it didn't feel good to play.
Yeah, it was like.
But I wonder if Just Cause 2 or Just Cause 3
probably
are a little better. But that's basically what it is. It's like no one gives a fetch about the campaign Just Cause. It's like, what crazy thing can I do?
Lassoing airplanes together and orbiting each other.
That's one of those games I think that can kind of fit into like a. This isn't super serious. It's just for fun.
And what's weird, at least for me, it's not as much like the seriousness per se, because I love Red Dead Redemption, which is still very serious. So I don't know what it is. Just something about being in a city with pedestrians. And
I guess
a lot of innocent people.
I guess if you're gonna have a game where you're running people over, like you're doing like in Red Dead Redemption. I mean, you could do that, but it really doesn't steer you in that direction. I think Grand Theft Auto kind of does.
That's almost the first thing you think to do is like I could run these people down.
And I mean, it's called Grand Theft Auto.
When I first played Crazy Taxi,
cars.
That was the first thing I tried to do in Crazy Taxi.
But you can't in that
game. No, they all dive out of the way.
They always get out of the way.
Just in time. Even if you juke them out and they dive and you still technically ran over them, they just clip through your car and they are not hurt. It was disappointing for me as a kid.
So it's like the tone of Grand Theft Auto is more like Red Dead Redemption and how serious and kind of like dramatic the story is. But at the same time, it's steering you in this direction of very moral, questionable sort of like activities, right? See, and I think that like Just Cause's sort of like tone would make that not as conflicting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I also love Sleeping Dogs, which a lot of people, say is Grand Theft Auto, and I just don't see it that way. And I think part of it's
true crime, dude. It's true crime
aspect to it. Yeah, I don't know. Plus,
dude,
that might be like one of the best stories in a video game.
Yeah.
At least for me personally, is
you don't go around
Dogs,
running people over and stuff like that. You're doing kung fu to bad guys. Like and you're not shooting people. It's like you avoid shooting.
Yeah, like
you're
you
more just, I
can't
want to
have
go
gun.
fetching, like, fight you hand to hand.
Yeah, which is like so much cooler.
That's way cooler. Yeah.
Although I did on occasion get some dude's car, pull him out of his car, punch him in the face, smash his head on the back of the hood, and throw him in the trunk, and then drive around with the guy in your trunk. I gotta say I did that. So I don't know.
You have to do that. And it's like, I'm sure that's fun in Grand Theft Auto 2, but those
I don't know the whole tone of Grand Theft Auto. I don't like it.
it.
I don't not like the whole stripper prostitute thing that they always go out of their way to integrate. It's always been like weird to me. So
gotta get those 14-year-olds playing your game.
But I do remember being in high school and people being like, "Oh my gosh, you can pick up a prostitute
and go to your car.
She goes in your car and your car bounces around and then it subtracts some money from you, like you paid her." So you're like, sweet.
That was probably the first game where you could do that. Honestly,
people thinking that was like an awesome thing.
Yeah, I remember
in high school. I'm sure
high
people
school
were all about that. I remember people saying that too. Now I have a very controversial one of these popular video games. Halo 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, even Halo 1 and 2?
I don't like them. And I would always play them. I would be forced to play them. And I was pretty good, I guess, but there were certain things that just bugged me. And one of the big things that bugged me is how long it takes to kill somebody in that game.
You shoot them a million times.
You are for a minute, you're just both running circles around each other, and you're just jumping up and down and just shooting. You have to keep your cursor on somebody for at least 10 seconds. I mean, I don't know how long. Maybe if you have a powerful gun, if you're like some snipers, like sniping can't be done one shot. You have to shoot someone twice. And that kind of like, I don't know, it just bugged the heck out of me. Yeah. It's like, this is so not real. Fetch this. But a lot of you guys who watch a lot of our podcasts will know that I actually do like some of the Call of Duty games. And I feel Call of Duty doesn't have that problem. You can totally one-shot somebody. You don't need to shoot people for nearly as long before they die than you do in the Halo games. And I know Halo has this weird shield thing going, but I'd much rather have a more strategic. And I think what happened to me, and this bugged me so bad, I would have the drop on somebody. I would be like right there, and I'm like, boom, whipping out my gun, and he turns around and like karate chops me, and I'm dead or something. You know, it's like
the melee.
The fact that you have a drop on someone and they don't know you're there, and you start shooting first, does not mean you're going to win that fight. It should. It should absolutely mean that. And if you can get behind him and whack him, I guess that kills him in one hit. And if I could do that, I would.
Get good.
But the gun should be more powerful than that. So I never liked that.
Yeah.
But
I felt the same way about Halo.
Yeah. But when I get and shoot people
but...
and they'd turn around and it turned into that fight and I'd end up losing, that was so unbelievably frustrating that this shouldn't happen. That is so unreal.
Plus the alien guns are all stupid.
Oh, the Needler that would like seek people. And,
I really enjoyed the Halo campaigns, but Halo was massively popular when I was in high school, and there was always Halo Land parties.
When I was in high school too,
that's all anyone wanted to play. I'm like, dudes, let's play Smash. Let's get our computers that are not let's get our games together and TVs, and let's have a big Smash tournament. No, all they wanted to play was Halo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I'd play it, but I didn't like it as much.
I'd go to those very rarely because I hated them. And that was
Brad
how
Woods.
I felt. Because
he was
people
so big
who had Xboxes were good at it, and I didn't get to play it every day, so I didn't get good because I didn't have an Xbox. So I'd go there, and
we had time splitters. That's what we had.
That was the frustration, too, that I had with Halo multiplayer, was that I shot you like 400 times, and you didn't die. And then somebody over here that I didn't see sniped me or something. And you'd get the people who played it all the time, and they'd all get on a team at the LAN party.
I know, they'd all want to be
and
on
they
the
would
same
know
team.
the maps really well, and they would and they had tactics, and they would just do that to, I don't know what fun there is in just dominating everybody all the time, but they would do that on purpose so that everyone who doesn't play the game could just be fodder and just run around and get fetched the whole time. Somehow they found enjoyment in that. I don't know.
There was a kid in high school, Dallin. He was the best at Halo, and whoever's team he was on would basically win every time. And he played with the wackest control scheme. I took over. I found this out because I took his controller because I took his place.
Yeah, you
one
always
time,
have to switch
what
controllers.
The fetch?
We play inverted, so that was always a problem. Anyways,
it wasn't even just that. It was his right stick was strafing him left and right
Oh, instead of the
instead of
RL.
turning. And then I couldn't even explain it. It was insane. And I was like, is this why you're so good at this game? But like whatever team he was on, like pretty much won every time because he was just so dominant. But he was one of those people, he just played it all the time. He was so good at it. But I personally had a freaking blast at Halo LAN parties. But I've also, at the same time, never really gotten into the whole Halo thing. Like, there's people that get real pumped about Master Chief or cosplaying as Master Chief or any of that, which is really cool. Some people, like we know, like Tim Wynn, has an amazing...
He's very talented.
He's amazing at his costuming and armor stuff. And it's really, really cool. But he gets real pumped about the whole Halo aesthetic, and I just never felt that part of it. I don't know. But I did have a lot of fun at those LAN parties.
I know... It was fun because being around people, but I'd rather... I played Battlefield 1942 at a LAN party once. That was fun because that game is way more like what I'm into.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You didn't have to shoot people 1,000 times before they died, and that was cool. But I also remember... Oh, crap. Oh, Halo ODST, I think. Your armor wasn't as... You weren't as... all powerful as Master Chief.
Worked differently.
That appealed to me a little more. It seemed to be a little more realistic, but I can't remember if that game even had online.
I think it did. I think
it did.
They all have.
They all do.
Because ODST isn't it's different, but
yeah, pretty different.
And the game was pretty fun, but it wasn't what I was hoping. I was hoping it would be, but you still have massive shields and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So those would be my popular games that I don't really like all that much.
I just had one, and now I forgot it. I literally just had one. What was it?
You didn't like
RuneScape.
RuneScape was okay.
That's just an age thing. If you're younger, it's cooler. If you're older, it just loses its appeal.
Shoot, I mean, I literally just had it.
Habbo Hotel.
Habbo Hotel. That was pretty popular.
Club Penguin.
I did like that though.
Something that I did not like it at all. And
was it in the vein of what we were talking about, like with Halo and LAN parties, Battlefield 1942, and all that?
Super Smash Brothers Brawl was one I was thinking of, but I didn't feel like that counted because there were a lot of other people who didn't like it too. I mean, it was mostly praise, but I don't think that was the one.
Yeah, I'd say it was a popular game.
Like, yeah, I guess I'm thinking Smash Community, right? They kind of ran over Brawl a bit.
That's the funny thing, and that whether you like it or not, that's all opinion. But it is very similar to the other games.
Yeah, I didn't like Super Smash Brothers Brawl. I remember being really, really excited about it. I didn't get to play it for a long time, and I got home and I just felt it was so slow. But and we kind of have already started answering the next question, and Melee is a big part of that one for me. So I'll kind of save my thoughts on Melee for a minute, but I just remember I went to Fox right away, and I tried to do a move that I would do often in Melee, where I kick them out with Fox, and then I kick them up, and then I jump and kick them up again. That was like something I could pull off like every time in Melee, and there was a certain like muscle memory sort of execution to that I had gotten used to, and in Brawl I just could never get it to work, and that's not necessarily the fault of the game.
It's a different game.
It's just the fault
it's not that game.
It's just the game's different. Yeah. And not, wanting to take the time to sort of readjust my playstyle. But that wasn't the one I had in mind. There was another one.
Because that's kind of like with me and Mario Kart 8. I freaking dominated Mario Kart Wii.
And then, you don't
And
like
when Mario Kart 8 came, I'm like, for some reason, it's just not doing what I'm telling it to do. And I never really got as adjusted
Brawl
to 8.
Didn't feel right to me, but Smash 4 did, even though it is pretty different too. It's not as fast, but it felt closer. It felt right.
Yeah, 4 is my favorite, I think.
So that's my favorite Smash game. But oh, geez, I don't want to hang on this forever. There was something else. There's something you guys really liked that I didn't like recently.
Jet Force Gemini, Time Splitters. Recently.
I don't know.
Mario RPG. That was one that...
I like Mario RPG. Well, I just haven't beaten it. But I like it.
Trying to think.
Captain Toad.
Captain Toad Adventure. Splatoon.
It's not Splatoon because I haven't even played Splatoon.
Okay, yeah.
But, I mean... Something I played and I didn't like it, and everyone else liked it. I will remember at some point later, and I'll yell it out loud. Moving on to the next question. What memories do you have with local multiplayer and couch co-op?
Yeah, and Halo
parties.
parties.
We talked about Halo parties. You really liked them. I didn't like them.
Battlefield 1942 was my favorite because that was the first time I'd experienced. Like my team had like 16 people on it or whatever, and then the other team had the same, and it was really cool. Just the scale. That was the first time I'd done that, and that was I was like 14. Also, StarCraft. I don't know if you guys know this. I used to play StarCraft all the freaking time. In fact, we all did on the 64.
The StarCraft 64. Which when I tell people that, they're like, "What the fetch is your problem?"
I know. I know. Z and R brought up the menu, and then your C sticks, your C buttons were and so it'd be like we would get pretty good at those hotkeys.
Yeah, that's right. That was, but it was split screen vertically.
Yeah. We never play against each other because you can see what the other person's doing.
Yeah.
So that
we would team up against a bunch of high level CPUs or whatever, and just rock out to freaking Boston.
Yeah, put Boston
the whole time on loop. Listen to Boston.
What was the CD that you hid for a long time? It was one of Casey's CDs.
It was Pearl Jam.
It was Pearl Jam. Case would rock Eddie Vedder. Pearl Jam.
I would, and that
Pearl Jam and Blink 182.
Yes,
Case got waiting to for a while, and I was so pissed. Well,
because both of those albums had a lot of F words, which I thought was so cool at the time, which I see as overly gratuitous now. But as a teenager, it's like
I remember I was so
not supposed to listen to this music.
I was so mad one day, and it might have been Pearl Jam. I almost freaking broke the CD because I was so pissed.
I'm remembering a fight between the two of you.
Oh, we used to fight about music.
I was up there, and you were like, "Where is Pearl Jam? This is bullcrap." And he's like, you were like refusing to tell him where the Pearl Jam CD was, and it's just like, no, like I'm sick of Pearl Jam. You're not playing Pearl Jam. It's like that's my CD. Like fetch you. Like you can't take my stuff.
We ended up having two Pearl Jam CDs, two of the same.
We did.
Album.
One of them was Dad's. Dad got it for free. Because I can't remember where the other one came from. I feel like I may have bought it after you took the other one.
And like intermediate in between that, since you didn't have Pearl Jam, and there was one I think that had My Sharona on it.
Oh, yeah, the Hits of Hollywood, that CD.
I think you had hit that one as well. And so then you brought out, fetch.
Not Fatboy Slim, was it?
Well, Creed. I started getting
Creed. Creed.
Dude, I know Creed isn't super popular these days, but like, what's his name? Mark Tremonti. That was my least favorite song. Mark Tremonti is one of the grooviest, grungiest, like sickest riff guitar players ever.
The thing is, I came around on Pearl Jam. Blink was basically like all the other punk rap we listened to, but I still have not come around on Creed. I don't. I'm still not a Creed.
You had Creed, and then I had Creed, the band that sang Superman, Three Doors Down.
Oh, Three Doors Down, yeah.
They're kind of a similar sort of sound.
Similar post
like an alternative rock sort of thing.
Yeah. Which that sound ended up evolving into basically Nickelback.
Which I
hate. They killed the genre. That genre doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, that's true.
Lifehouse. Remember all those bands that had that same sound that,
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Anyways, so
Breaking Benjamin is like the only band that sort of fits that I've tolerated listening to since then. And I'm not really into them. It's just like a song or two that I was like, that's an okay song.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I can't listen to that music anymore.
I just love Mark Tremonti's guitar riffs, man.
Anyways,
get over it.
That's a memory, but that's not about couch multiplayer.
Otherwise, the music was a big part of those memories, though, because we'd always blast music playing our games.
When we first met Mike and his family, we moved into the same neighborhood, basically like within a week or two of each other, and then pretty quickly right off the bat, we were arranging Pokemon Stadium tournaments.
That's right, Stadium
that we would set up.
Oh yeah, and we would do the tournaments on the Game Boys too. I remember we'd do that, and we would dominate them with Starmie.
Just minimize.
Swift. That was Lance's tactic, and he kicked all of our butts. We couldn't do anything about it unless we fought him with Starmie as well.
Starmie versus Starmie. But we all were doing the rare candy glitch, so we all had level 100 everything. But I remember we were trying to theme it. We'd try and be like, this is a water stage.
Water.
Oh, tournament. The water tournament.
Like
a
lightning.
Because they were doing that in the show.
Yeah, a what is it? That's like a psychic.
Psychic?
The psychic types.
Yeah.
We'd have them, yeah.
I remember we tried to do the cards once in a while too, but we never really... We didn't have enough energy cards.
No one had enough of the
to
energy
really
cards.
play that ever, so we never really...
H.C. Bailey did, dude. He was all into that.
Really?
H.C. Bailey like won some tournaments in like Atlanta and places
Oh,
like
dang.
that.
Nice.
What the heck?
Nice.
I think he won. Maybe he just participated. I think he won, though. He did Magic the Gathering. He did Pokemon a lot back in the day. But
Yeah.
That's so funny. One of my friends in Japan got way into Magic the Gathering. And before he went to Japan, because we were missionaries, so like he was going to be gone for so long, so he sold off his Magic the Gathering deck, and he was pissed.
It was like
about it 'cause
thousands
it
of
was a couple
dollars,
thousand
right?
dollars.
Yeah.
Which is like,
So much money.
dang, man. You get into that.
I remember the first tournament. Well, I didn't do that many tournaments. I don't remember if it was the first or not, but it was one of the very first tournaments I ever tried for Smash Brothers locally, Melee. And so I prepared for the singles one, but they also had a team tournament. And Parker was living with me at the time. And we prepared for that for, I don't know, a month or two. Just like played it like crazy, like, yes, we're going to dominate. And then we get there, and then because he didn't have like an account at the Game Crazy, that
my
was like
gosh.
one of their qualifiers to like be able to be
gosh.
in it, is that you had to have their little like, I don't know, you pay
Their power-up rewards card.
kind of like
equivalent.
that thing, kind of thing. And he was like, there are no Game Crazies in Colorado. That'd be a
we
waste of
didn't
money.
have one.
I'm not going to freaking buy that. And it's just like, but you can't be in the tournament if you don't buy it. So I was working there, and I was trying to be like, guys, like, he's my friend from out of state. He'll have no use for this. Like, just let him be in it. And he's like, nope. You have to have that in order. And it's like,
And where's Game
that.
Crazy now?
yeah, exactly.
Out of business.
Exactly, right? So the whole exercise of holding a tournament to get people in there is pointless if... Anyways. So... we prepared for that forever. We got so good at it in those 2 months that we were preparing, and that he couldn't be in it. And I got just some random dude assigned to be on my team, and I just dragged him along with me through like 4 rounds. And he would die like right away every time, and I was just like fending off 2 dudes for like 5 stocks basically.
So you were maining Fox. Who was Parker playing?
No, I was maining Marth back then.
Oh, you were Marth.
And he would play Mario a lot of times. I think also Roy was another one that he would kind of switch between.
yeah.
Roy, I could dominate pretty well.
If it was Smash 64, I know he would have been playing.
He would have been playing Luigi.
he was so good at Smash 64. Nobody could beat him.
Anyways, though, yeah, so that was an interesting memory just because we didn't actually get to play together. We probably would have won that tournament if we had been together. But
Such
We
bullcrap.
could have won like $100.
yeah, I don't know what we would have won. I don't remember what the prize
like
was.
a
Lifetime
Halloween
Game
candy.
Crazy, which is
Oh yeah, lifetime game rentals
Yeah.
for every month.
Man, I still remember. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but Phantasy Star Online getting together.
Yeah,
and
that
playing
one was
game,
big.
because it's a bad game. But there just weren't very many games that you could do something like that on, And we wanted to play co-op, and that was it for my Phantasy Star
So
Online.
hold on, you guys had the GameCube modem, right? Didn't you end up getting the modem?
We did.
To
We
play
never
online?
got
But
it to work.
Yeah,
We
I-
never got it to work. We plugged it in to the dial-up internet, and we never, ever got online successfully.
Jeez.
I don't remember why, if it was like you have to have... was there a service you had to pay for? I can't remember.
know.
I can't remember what the reason was, but I remember Steve for like 3 hours sitting there trying to get it to work, and it just never did.
Jeez. That's unfortunate.
Fantasy Star Online probably would have been more fun online.
Yeah,
Probably.
We
never
But I mean, you still just
We're some of the
doing
only people that played
Yeah.
it for that long.
offline.
Yeah, offline. Because you just play the same levels over and over.
Yeah.
Talk
I
about
really-
games being corridors.
Yeah.
that game was a
yeah,
bunch of
absolutely.
That
corridors.
one was corridors.
Bullcrap.
That's all it was. It like looked so cool though. It just like looked cool. You're looking at it, the art, and you're like, I spent most of my time just customizing characters.
Yeah.
That's the first game I remember having. I mean, it wasn't the first one to have it, but the first one I remember doing like a more robust character creation sort of thing where you change the look and the color and you customize it. I was like so fascinated by that. And then I played the game. It's like, what a waste of time. This game sucks.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a pretty good one, Mr. Ultimate. We definitely have a lot, specifically because we, growing up together.
And one that comes to mind, but it's not multiplayer. I would just come over to watch Case and play Harvest Moon 64.
Oh yeah.
For like 6 months.
Dude. That's right. I remember that.
I just didn't even fetch. I just wanted to watch you play that game because we didn't have it yet, and we ended up getting it a few months down the road, and then I played through it myself. I don't know, a million times.
Right.
But for a long time, I would just come over every day and watch you play.
I remember because that was that first playthrough I did where I married Karen.
Yep.
And realized that she's
Karen doesn't do anything.
She's
and she
the
drops
worst
the eggs
wife.
and breaks them.
Yeah, and then you lose like $50.
Yeah, which is like not really a big deal in the grand scheme of things.
Not after you get going. But at least because she wouldn't do anything else. Like Ellie would at least feed your chickens. You didn't have to buy feed that day.
Well, and Karen was a little bit more difficult to actually court if you wanted her.
Yeah. Because she wants to leave town, and she's just...
There's actually, though,
so,
there's a glitch in the game where you just show her the dog over and over again. And you can do that more than once a day, so you can do that like 70, 80, 100 times in a row, and then she'll go up to the next heart level.
Oh, wow.
Jeez,
and you can basically marry her within
the first week.
In spring.
Weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
So...
That's funny.
I was all about... First time around, I was all about Anne. Second time around, I was all about Ellie.
After Ellie, I never married anyone else.
Yeah, Ellie's the best one.
Parker married Potpourri first. Yeah, Ellie's by far the best one.
Because what would Anne do? I think she would like pet the
She would
cows.
do the cows and horses.
Something like
She wouldn't feed them, though, would
I
she?
don't know if she would feed him. Would she milk him? Should we... I can't remember what she would do. Potpourri would do all your plants. She'd water. Mm-hmm. But not all of them. In fact, I remember she specifically didn't water very many of them. You'd come out and there'd be like patches. I can't remember that though because Parker married her. I didn't.
See, in Stardew Valley, occasionally your wife, whoever it is, and I don't know if there's a big difference between different ones because I've only played it through to get married once, but yeah, they'll water all of them every time. Not every time, but when they do it, they water all of them. So
when they do it, they water it.
You don't have to go
and get the parts and miss.
Because I remember like losing some strawberries or something that way.
Yeah,
right?
because you totally didn't.
Like
you could never water the one in the middle. You plant your 3x3, and then
like
when they start growing,
the horseshoe shape.
Yeah, you can't get the one in the middle unless you cut one of the outside ones, and then.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Anyways,
man. Thanks, Mr. Ultimate. That was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Okay, last question
from
Locanio. And by the way, I just want to put this out there because he asked this 2 podcasts ago.
Oh, okay.
And then last week said, "Did you see my question on the last podcast?" Let me just repeat. Like, we do see them, and if we don't answer them, you can always just ask them again. And but sometimes it's not because we don't think it's a good question. Sometimes I just don't really know. I don't feel like I have a lot to say about it, or and in this case, this is a case where I don't feel like I have much to say about it, and I'm doing this for demonstration purposes, so that if you ask something and we don't answer it, it's not because we don't think it's a good question. Sometimes we really just have nothing to say about it.
Right. Or I mean, we can only cover like at most 7 topics in a podcast, and usually the first 3 are news or relevant info. So we can only field a few questions per video.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the question is, do major RPG companies take ideas, mainly story and character ideas, from budget titles like Undertale, Lisa, Yumi Nikki, Off, One Shot? I have not played a single one of those. So because
I've heard of one or two.
I've heard of one and I have played none.
Yeah.
So I can't answer that question because I don't even know the games you're talking about.
Right.
So there was actually somebody who commented underneath and said, "Wow, you have great taste."
Nice.
So, and this is something, a sentiment I've been feeling growing on me a lot recently, is that I am becoming fatigued with AAA games, and I'm really wanting to get more into the indie scene personally.
Yeah.
I still really want to go back and play Hyper Light Drifter, Owlboy, and a bunch of these other games I bought recently. Like, I'm more interested in playing those, but I feel more pressured to play AAA games for the channel. But in any case, I can't tell you whether or not I feel AAA games are taking ideas from those because I don't have any idea what those games are about. But I would assume, I would think that they don't have time to go around like playing all these different games.
Right.
You will hear them saying, "I played Skyrim and that influenced Breath of the Wild," or Final Fantasy. But do they have time to be playing Undertale and all these other games? I don't know.
Right. There was an interview with the director of Persona 5 in Weekly Famitsu some point in December, and we talked about this in the podcast, but he was listing like his 5 favorite games from that year. And I was surprised at a couple of them. There were some more obscure games in there, as well as one of them was a game that had come out like quite a long time ago that he was still playing. So at least he supposedly had enough time to play 5 games the year that Persona 5 came out. So, I don't know what other developers... I mean, you would hope that they are. Right. Because, filmmakers watch other filmmakers to keep up.
I think the difference is that the time investment in watching even a lot of films to get ideas about what other people are doing is so much smaller.
I think it's like 10 to 1.
Than a guy who works, even a director who works 100 hours a week on his game and then goes with whatever time is left and he's going to spend that playing another game instead of being with his family. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, I haven't seen you kids all week. I got to play Undertale now so that I can sort of like know what's going on in the industry. But I'm sure that there's a part of the job that requires them to be up to date with and in touch with what the industry's doing.
In fact, Square Enix recently required a lot of their company employees to play Super Mario RPG to get a feel for like how good RPG elements in games and stuff, and they ended up stopping it because the developers were playing it too much. Basically, they kept playing the game over and over.
So they're playing like on the clock, basically. Like
because it was kind of like demanded by the company. But after a week or two, they were like, "Okay, this is no longer part of your job. Yeah. We just wanted you to,
So I was just reading that the creator, producer of Animal Crossing franchise, one of his motivations for creating Animal Crossing was he had family members and people that were playing games, but he wasn't like always there. Like he'd usually get home late, and so he couldn't play a game with a kid that had already gone to bed. But Animal Crossing is this asynchronous kind of like cooperation within the town, and so he created a game where you could still play it with somebody even though you weren't playing it at the same time as them. Mm-hmm. And so I know at least for him,
in the same town,
he was still playing games of some sort when he would come home from work. But it's just tricky because you, as a game developer, you should be playing freaking video games. I understand people are busy, but you should freaking be doing it.
I feel like the Switch might actually help facilitate some of that because at least travel time, at least on the train, most people take the trains in Japan, you will be able to on the go, at least for 30, 40 minutes a day, unless you still have a laptop and you're still working on the train. Some people do that. But yeah, you'll have an opportunity to play a game on the way to or from work every day.
Like, this isn't like a really good example because it's a different kind of game, but Sakaguchi played a bunch of Puzzle and Dragons and then went and met with the heads of Gung Ho to talk about how they had planned their game before he started working on Terra Battle. And so... that is not what you're asking here.
I have no idea. I'm sure
that's a AAA.
I'm sure that game, right? Let's just say that it's probably safe to guess that some ideas are being taken from indie titles that they like and they're inspired by. But it also goes the other way around. I mean, Undertale is directly inspired by Earthbound.
Oh yeah.
So indie titles are very much taking and borrowing from the big AAA games that those guys grew up playing and stuff like that. So I mean. I would say it's probably safe to bet that ideas are being borrowed, maybe even like slightly tweaked or whatever. But AAA development is just a lot harder to manage, and so some of the execution on that isn't coming across. Like you're saying, the major RPGs are missing this, but the indie titles are nailing that for you. Yeah. And we've kind of talked about that in the past on some of our podcasts. And if we made a game, we'd want it to be in look and feel as basic as possible in order to deliver on some of that kind of stuff as well as possible.
And when an indie title does really well, like you can guarantee, like Minecraft, people are taking note. Like Lego Worlds is coming out now.
Yeah, that's good
clearly point. Minecraft. There's a few other of those types of games, or like Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley on Steam's outsold like several AAA titles. That game has just sold like crazy. I guarantee you that now other developers are taking note, and you're going to start seeing some of those aspects from Stardew Valley in other like farm games.
And even Stardew Valley was playing off of Terraria a little bit,
right? Or Harvest Moon and all that stuff. AAA.
So it's like a come full circle sort of thing.
Exactly.
I don't know if you'd ever call a Harvest Moon game a AAA game, but a more widespread console release. Popular kind of game was borrowed by a guy who made Stardew Valley, and now I'm sure that people in the larger companies are looking at those sales figures and going, let's borrow some of those back and make a game that hits the same vein.
Well, if you work on the Story of Seasons team right now, you're probably looking at like, what the fetch? Like, there's a couple dozen of us here, and there was that one concerned ape freaking by himself. What the fetch?
Yeah.
It took him 4 years.
Right,
but
it took him a
still,
while.
I mean, you as a company, they would have to be looking. They're aware of it.
Well, and you also know that the executives of those companies are looking at the margins.
And they're saying, why can't you do this?
One person made this. Well, we could totally make that with 5 people. Let's do
with
it.
150 people.
Or 100 if they really want to, go all in on it. But
that's actually another point, too, is that AAA development has, I would say, a good way to define what's happened in the last decade or so is they've kind of wandered off the path, so to speak. That they don't feel like focused experiences, like they know what they want to be. A lot of them more and more feel like and the kitchen sink type experiences, right? It's like, but also like you could fish and then you could
was
do
really
this.
popular in that game, so we better shoehorn that into
and we need a crafting system, so
we
I
gotta
guess
have
we'll
crafting.
have crafting.
Gotta have a
And
level
then-
up like RPG mechanic.
Gotta
Gotta have a
mechanics.
sandbox open world. Gotta
Yeah.
have everything.
So the indie stuff can benefit from the fact they can be highly focused.
yeah, just do one thing.
And because they tend to sell for less money, that it's not something people are going to be upset about as much, given the things that people expect from bigger titles. I don't know if people would have been pissed if you couldn't fish in Final Fantasy 15. I have no idea. There might have been some people that would have been pissed.
Fishing's actually one of the best things in the game.
But
so.
but if it wasn't in the
games
game,
that have fishing,
if there was no fishing in the game, what does that do to the greater game? Right? It's just
you probably wouldn't even notice it if it wasn't there.
Yeah, and I know
you wouldn't be wondering,
they have
why
this
can't I fish? That's a
Camping
weird
survivalist theme, but just more games are doing that nowadays. So I guess if one of those indie games did have a AAA budget, what do you put the money into?
That's the second part of this question here. How would you feel about them remaking one of those great budget titles into a big budget or AAA game? Maybe not AAA, whatever he says. But if like EA bought Undertale and then made Undertale in the super, what do they make?
Highly confident.
A Mass Effect.
They would find
Andromeda.
They would find a way to catch it up.
No, absolutely. I don't think anybody could make Undertale into a modern graphic game. It is what it is. It works because of what it is. You can't. I don't think you can successfully take that game and put it into Unreal Engine 4 and have it be good or fun or anything like that. I don't think you would want that either. I don't think you would buy it. I don't think anyone.
Interestingly enough, we've
likes
actually
the game
seen
would
this
want that.
happen before with Minecraft. Minecraft was totally indie, Mojang, and obviously they made a lot of money before they were bought by Microsoft.
Right.
But what has happened with it since
now
Microsoft purchased it, they have the story mode or the whatever they call it. It's like almost a separate game.
Yeah.
Minecraft Story Edition.
Yeah, the story.
But a lot, and I don't play Minecraft, but a lot of it, it's still very much, to me, looks to be Minecraft. What I would have recognized as still being Minecraft earlier on. So I don't know. I know they're still working on the game all the time. I have no freaking clue.
Yeah,
what they do
even though they got enough money to have now produced that at a big budget level,
It's still
they
the same.
don't, right? Because I don't know. It's just and
It wouldn't
you kind of run
work.
into there's for me. I almost would like to see the opposite in a lot of ways. I'd like to see Final Fantasy VII made with sprite based graphics
demake.
and stuff. In a lot of ways, I'd rather see them go back to a simpler presentation, just so they can have the time and the ability to really focus on story and execution and battle system.
And then they
mechanics
can
and
have the
stuff.
game out in a year or two instead of 10 years.
I think I'd rather
it would
see
be
that.
about as enjoyable an experience.
I'd way rather see that than see them take something that became huge and popular, let's say, sold a lot of copies on Steam and be like, let's go all out AAA on that. It's like, no, that's part of the appeal. That's part of the allure to it, I think.
What would you do if you found out that Octopath Traveler is a code name for Final Fantasy 16?
That would actually
that
be
is
sweet.
Final Fantasy
If they
16.
stylized Final Fantasy 16 like Octopath Traveler, I would be very happy actually.
I'd be really surprised.
Yes, I'm surprised.
And there's a big part of me that would be excited about that, but I also... I wonder what the reaction would be if
pushed
Final
into a
Fantasy
territory that
16,
I don't think you can
I don't think you can go back.
ever,
I don't think you can go
Which
back.
sucks.
I know.
It sucks.
I don't think you can go back.
Because they shot themselves in the foot here. Everything has to be a whatever based in reality. Everyone has to be a fantasy based in reality now.
I think they could get away with like going cell shaded or like Dragon Quest VIII style with the hard lines, like a really hard anime style. I think they could do that if it was still developed at a 3D world high-tech level. But I don't think that they can get away with like the next numbered Final Fantasy would be a 2D sprite-based game. I just really don't think they
it would be so wonderful.
It would be sweet. It would be sweet. I just don't think
you're
they
right.
Could do it.
It's basically impossible. But if we ever got something like that at this point, it would be either a phone game, honestly, or a Final Fantasy like spin-off. Like the art style you described to me just now, the Dragon Quest, that sounds kind of like Crystal Chronicles to me. And that's they did that. It wasn't a mainline Final Fantasy game, but they did make a Final Fantasy like that.
There's this infographic that we were looking at a while back, and it's been making the rounds. You guys may have seen it, but it was posted to the Final Fantasy subreddit, and it was showing like all kinds of info about the history of Final Fantasy. But one of the really cool things they showed was like development time to release time for all the main entries. And it's you just look at it and the bars start getting longer and longer.
Way longer, yeah.
And I wonder if we've even peaked out at this point. It's just crazy.
Well, at this point you're missing entire console generations, and that's I would say that it peaks out once you go that long without releasing a game. Like you go 10 years without releasing a game. Like luckily Final Fantasy they have different teams and 13 came out and 14 and whatever. But if you go 10 years without releasing a game, your franchise is dead. Like, you killed it. You screwed up.
Oh, fetch. And time to call up Nintendo. They're going to be a Metroid release.
That means that really kids who are 10, who probably didn't play Final Fantasy 15 because you're 10, they're 20 when 16 comes out.
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
They don't even know what Final Fantasy is. They don't give a fetch about your company.
No, they do because they played all the re-releases, dude.
They played Final
12
Fantasy
Zodiac
6.
Age.
Like fifth
on their
release
iPhone.
of it on the iPhone.
Oh, geez.
Actually, I don't know how many kids are doing that. That's really.
I doubt.
I'd really like to
kids.
see
It's
the
probably
demographics
adults.
for people buying Final Fantasy games on mobile.
It has to
Maybe
be.
that's
People our
why
age.
Nintendo thought only 30 and 40-year-olds are going to buy a freaking NES Classic.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe that's true, but there is a heck of a lot of 30 and 40-year-olds out there who want it. There's a heck of a lot more million 30 and 40-year-olds than you're giving credit for. How many millions of 30 and 40-year-olds are there in the world?
Oh gosh,
I know of at least a dozen. So
at least a dozen.
At least a dozen that couldn't get their hands on the NES Classic.
An eighth or a seventh of the people. No, probably. There's probably a billion.
Actually,
There's probably a billion people. Dude.
that's a good point.
30s to 40s.
Do either of you guys know anyone who has the NES?
I don't know a
single person.
I
has an
know
NES
no
Classic.
one who got one.
I don't know a single person.
I know
a lot of people
on Facebook
who have
who wanted
Raspberry
it.
Pi.
Oh, Raspberry Pi.
yeah.
There you go.
And they go get that, and then they have the entire library open to them for $30. It's not legal, I don't think, but
Nintendo won't let
it's
you
like
buy an NES. They didn't
okay,
make enough.
and that kind
Their
of
fault.
kind of completely ropes me back into the whole like how do you combat piracy thing. And I love Gabe
It's not
Newell's
by limiting
approach.
your supply.
Yeah,
Gabe Newell's approach is make your service more attractive, more convenient than the pirates, which are generally, there's a certain barrier to cross there. Am I going to get spyware?
Right. There's viruses. There's legal consequences.
There's a certain way you got to install it so that you can get past the
the Uplay.
Yeah, like there's a whole hassle that people are willing to do because it's free. But
free.
if you had an NES Classic with like I don't know, 500 games on it. Would anyone ever emulate your fetch again? Like, I don't know. Like, you got to offer a service with the value and the convenience that just beats trying to emulate it. I think that's really the only way. And they have such a golden opportunity to do that with Virtual Console, and they just won't do it. They just don't give a fetch, and it makes no sense to me. Nope. Anyways.
Well, that was a good question. Look a Nioh.
Yeah, well,
thank you very much.
I believe this podcast has run its course.
It's over.
It's concluded.
The final podcast, number 36.
It's a wrap.
So we're retiring now. Just kidding. So you guys, we run a YouTube channel. If you were listening to this audio only, we run Dark Pixel and Dark Pixel Gaming, which is where this podcast can be viewed. And if you don't know, we have it on audio as well. We're on iTunes and Google and all the places that you find podcasts audio only. There's some links in the description. We're on Google. Type in Dark Pixel on Google. see how many pages
we made it to Google.
Thank you, Google.
Anyways, you guys are beasts, and watch all of our videos.
Watch out for the instant reviews as well.
Yes.
This Friday we'll be streaming Dragon Quest VIII, the 3DS version.
Yes, that's right. And it comes out on Friday, so we'll be streaming it right away.
I know a lot of you are upset about censorship in that game.
We'll see.
But guess what? There are no random battles, and that makes me really, really excited.
That's
so I'm going to play that version. The end.
I do.
Have a good day. See you later.